And hello, everybody. So good to see you. Today's Mondays, which means tonight we are doing our review of the classic original Lost in Space series from 1965. I'm still a little under the weather, so you may hear a few pauses every now and then not when I mute the mic so that I can maybe cough a little bit. Once again, my good friend Gorilla's Random Thoughts is going to be helping me out with the chats. I'm a little short winded, but I will do my best to get through this because this is the highlight of my week, and I don't want to miss any more streams. So I'm going to try to continue to the best I can, regardless of what happens. If I happen to go to the hospital, I'll try to do them from my hospital bed. But hopefully that won't happen. So Jill's going to be along here shortly. She's just got a little bit of a delay, so I thought we'd get started here.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Gorilla. You have something?
Well, I was gonna say right before we went live, you said you gotta get your ducks in a row. At least you know where your ducks are at. I'm still looking for mine.
Well, when you find it, shoot them with orange sauce.
Hey, I
And
got one in the freezer here.
oh, there you go.
Ah,
Lemon Pie, welcome to the chat. The first thing I want to do is welcome everybody who's in the chat. I really appreciate you guys being here. I hope you have a good time tonight.
hi,
Lemon
Lemon.
Pie says hi, Pop. And good to see you, Lemon Pie. Good to see you as well. Phantom Boomer, let me show that again here. Phantom Boomer says hi, Pop Culture Curator. Howdy at Lemon Pie. And Basil, so good to see you. Glad you came back, Basil. Basil Battle Dragon says hi, gang.
Hello.
And Ola Greg says, hi, great Battle Dragon Basil. Absolutely. And Phantom Boomer says, Oiler Greg. And Basil says, yo, Oiler. And Ola Greg says, hey, oh, Phantom. Everybody saying hello to each other. That's wonderful. Basil Battle Dragon says, hi, Phantom. And hello, Captain Finity. Captain Finity's here. Ola Greg says, hey, Lemon. And Ola Greg says, hospital stream. Hopefully not. That's a last resort. And besides, knowing my luck, I'm sure if and when I go to the hospital, there won't be good enough Wi-Fi. Lemon Pie says, "Hey, Oiler," and Quack Quack Gorilla says, "Oiler, Greg." And Lemon Pie says, "Hello, Gorilla and PvP."
Hi,
And
Lemon.
Basil says, "Just take your time and do the best you can, dude. Don't worry about having to pause. Damn, man, if you're not well, don't." Well, I was having issues with getting medication from my wretched doctor. I do not trust doctors, but I'm doing the best I can. In fact, I just told him to get screwed earlier on the phone. Basil Battle Dragon says, worry. Don't worry. Okay, yeah, got you, Basil. And Ola Greg says, hi, Captain. Captain Finity says, Greg. Okay. And like I said, Jill will be coming along shortly. Shortly, not shortening, but shortly. And I wanted to say also hello to my esteemed fellow panelists. We have Gorilla's Random Thoughts here tonight. Gorilla, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and my issue with this episode is more of a general thing.
Okay.
I like literally about fell asleep watching this one, to be honest.
Okay, well, sorry to hear that.
Then
And
you got then you got the classic Texas drawl that's over exaggerated a little bit. Like I know a lot of people from Texas. I don't know anybody who talks like this guy.
okay, gotcha. And I'd like to also welcome PvP. How are you doing, PvP?
I'm doing. Other than my throat, I'm doing well. Good day at work. The 9 hours I was there went by fairly quickly, so it wasn't one of those long, boring, horrible days. So that was good.
Oh, it's great to hear. I'm glad it went well for you.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
All right. Yeah, and once again, like I said, I would like to welcome especially also everybody in the chat because without the chat, we are pretty much nothing, or at least we're something, but nothing compared to without having our chat here. I hope you
Well, yeah.
guys, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the stream tonight. If you do, please consider hitting the like button. And here we are. Hello, welcome, Jill. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. We haven't really started. We were just doing the introductions and saying hello to everybody. So
Hello,
I'm glad
everybody.
you could make it.
Hey, cool. Great.
How are you doing, Jill?
Wonderful. I just finished watching the episode.
Okay, fantastic. And so did Gorilla and PvP. I
I
watched
wa-
it last
I
night.
watched it. I watched it last night too, actually.
I watched it
Last
about
night.
5 minutes or 15 minutes ago.
Okay, so it's still fresh in
Wow.
your mind,
Yeah, unfortunately.
unfortunately.
It's okay, Gorilla. I'm here too.
Yeah, I can kind of relate to what Girl is saying.
Sounds like you're in good company.
Uh,
You mean
So,
my bitterness and my bitterness on this is actually rubbing off?
No, it's it's my own opinion.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
right,
But
we all
yeah,
watched it. We all watched it separately. We didn't watch it together, so we
Mhm.
all formed our own opinions, and then we come
We
here to
did.
share them with each other.
Right.
So tonight we're going to be covering. We're on season 1 of Lost in Space. We're going to be covering episode 6, "Welcome Stranger," with guest star the fantastic, great Warren Oates. And this episode originally aired October 20th, 1965. And the first 5 episodes I know that we covered were pretty eventful and pretty exciting. So this, I'm sure, probably seems somewhat of a slower episode for you guys. You probably figured.
Well, the first five were exceptional, and they tied together so well, and there were true science fiction concepts by a fantastic Star Trek writer. So
yeah,
yeah, the
my
juxtaposition is
thoughts.
different.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. After the first Fantastic Five, this one came up a little short, but I always thought that even when I was a kid, I thought it wasn't as good as the first five.
Yeah, it does take some adjustment. It's written by Peter Packer, who was actually a Britishman, but he was known for writing westerns. So that's
Ah,
why
that
it's got a
explains
lot.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys know that it has a lot of
See, that
western
makes sense.
influences. The
Since
guest
this one
star,
kind of was a western.
yeah, the guest star Warren Oates was actually from Kentucky, but he's playing somebody from Texas, and he was a good actor. So regardless of how you guys feel about the episode, he actually stands out for what he did. I think that it shows he had a good heart. He wasn't a bad guy, and he actually went on to do a lot of famous movies and roles before he had an unfortunate sudden death of a heart attack on April 3rd, 1982, at the age of 53.
Ouch.
So it's really sad because he could have lasted a lot longer, but I think he was a heavy chain smoker, which may not have really helped.
Yeah,
Well, he
probably
was
did.
an incredible actor.
He
That's not my
was.
problem.
I could list a whole bunch of movies and shows that he was in. I mean, he worked a lot with the great director Sam Peckinpah on some really good westerns.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but he also did some really good action films. And other thing is, he was very versatile.
But
So,
yeah, I'm sorry.
oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, Peter
Mhm.
Packer, who wrote this, I'm not sure how many episodes he actually wrote of Lost in Space, but he did write a substantial number, I believe, because he does pop up fairly regularly.
I
Uh,
saw
Well, let's
25 episodes.
right.
okay,
Let's
that sounds about right. Yeah, he wrote quite a few.
well keep in mind, everybody. He is the writer of the Great Vegetable Rebellion. So we'll get to that when we get
Yeah,
to season 3. Right.
That shows.
that's the thing with Peter Packer. Like, he was never my top favorite writer in Lost in Space. I always thought he was could be kind of so some episodes. But then, if he could come up with something like the Great Vegetable Rebellion, I got to give him total respect for that one because that one's a classic.
Well, at least one of us thinks that.
Oh, I love
The
that
cast. I
episode.
know the cast wasn't very happy about it, and Peter Packer admitted that the only reason why he wrote it because, according to him, quote, he didn't have another goddamn idea in his head, and it
But
Yes,
shows.
you know what?
I heard he apologized about it.
He
But it's
did.
so
He did.
it's so weird. It's actually fantastic. You have to see it to believe it, and it's going to be a long time before we get there because it's right towards the end of the series. But I think it's a classic,
Yes.
kind of
Well,
like
it is.
Spock's brain, or that kind of thing.
It is. I would. Yeah, I would say it's along the same lines as Spock's brain.
Yeah,
Spock's brain was cool, so maybe I'll like it.
I like. Yeah, well, yeah, I think you will. It's a lot of fun.
I think I
It's so crazy. It's just you can't believe you're actually watching this. That's how good it is.
yeah, I think I have to agree with Naomi there that Spock's brain is just the Surgeon Spock's just a rehash of Spock's brain.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again. Naomi.
Yeah, from Question of Trek.
Oh, I don't know who that is. I'm
Oh,
confused.
I was
Sorry.
looking for Naomi in the chat.
Yeah, so was I. I was
No,
looking
Star
at.
Trek 3 is an incredible film. That's leaps and bounds above. Spock's brain is just really
Eh,
campy and
I will
strange.
tell you.
I misunderstood the
But
connection. Can you repeat that? What's the connection between Star Trek 3 and Spock's brain? I didn't get that.
It's just a rehash. Now, I will tell you,
Huh?
during
Okay.
the Search for Spock is a fantastic film. You're right with that, Antiderivative Jill. I never had a better nap.
Now, when you said it's a rehash, is that your opinion or someone else's?
Well, I got to rewatching it after I heard that and trying to figure out the connection. I was like, I can see the connections to it.
Okay, it sounds like maybe somebody who doesn't like Star Trek.
well, yeah, I did a review with Mr. Brown Alliance on Star Trek 3, and I really enjoyed it. So
But yeah, we're here for Lost in
that's
Space.
fun.
Let's get this
Yeah, right.
started.
I mean, I could
After
talk
we
about
get
Star
caught
Trek
up on
3.
the chat here.
Right.
And Euler Greg says, Jill, always a plus to the stream.
Absolutely.
And Hungry says, hiya, Limit Pie, Captain Infinity, Euler Greg, Zill, Dragonhead, and Phantom Boomer.
Basil.
What did I say?
Bazil? But it's good enough. You're getting there. You're getting there. It's fine.
Well, I still want to call him Brazil.
I know, but there's no I know, but it's okay. You're getting there.
Yeah.
It's-
Limit Pie
Hey.
says, Hungry. Phantom Boomer says, hey there, Hungry for the UFO, and then Never Suffer reboot. And Euler Greg says, hail UFO. Says, I'm
Hail,
a
hungry
T-pop.
boy.
Read the Campbell Soup episode.
Yo, guys.
Good to see
Hey,
you all.
Joe.
What a turnout. Wow. And
Where
good to
did
see
you-
you, hungry boy.
Where did you find the information about how many episodes Peter Packer wrote? Because I'd love to find a website like that. Because I'd love to know how many. Because there's like there was like a stable of writers, right, in the writers' room for this show, and quite often the same writer would pop up, fairly regularly. But I've never been able to find how many episodes each of these guys wrote.
I
Just
think it
Google
was
it.
just the Wikia of
Yeah.
the
On
Lost in
Wikipedia? For some
no,
reason I'm
not
not finding.
Wikipedia. What's the name of the author again?
Peter
This one, Peter
Packer.
Packer.
It was just the lostinspace.fandom.com.
.fandom.com. Okay, can you put that in the link somewhere? I'd like to check it out.
Yeah. Oh, it says 24 scripts here. Maybe it was a different one. Yeah.
Maybe some of them didn't get aired.
There were regular writers though that would write a number of episodes.
Yeah.
I like to include. I'm going to be reading a little bit from the book Lost in Space, the authorized biography of a classic sci-fi series by Mark Cushman. And this is episode 6, Welcome Stranger. And in the assessment, it says, nothing was going to match the excitement of the first 5 episodes of Lost in Space, each with the exception of the derelict, augmented with big action sequences from the pilot film. This doesn't mean Welcome Stranger is substandard by any means, merely paced slower, with more emphasis on character and story than action and adventure. Welcome Stranger is an engaging story highlighted by a character-rich performance by the charismatic Warren Oates, who manages to combine the conflicting personality traits of good old boy rowdiness with those of homespun wisdom and guarded sensitivity. Few Lost in Space writers other than Peter Packer could have pulled off a story and a character like Hapgood with good results. Packer's background in westerns, in print and on screen, combined well with a fertile imagination that easily adapted to the what-if worlds of science fiction. Texas-born Jimmy Hapgood is a rough and rowdy character reminiscent of America's Old West, transplanted into the new frontier of space. The focus in the story may be on Hapgood, but the real glue that holds his tale together, bringing a deeper resonance, is the guilt that John and Marie Robinson feel over taking their children into space, and their difficult decision to entrust Will and Penny to the wild adventurer. The theme, then, is the true test of love, self-sacrifice. Okay, so let me share.
Alrighty. Edge of Time says, I have nothing to contribute, but that never stopped me before.
Well, welcome, Edge of Time. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, welcome, welcome. And Hungry says, hiya, Edge of Time. Lemon Pie says, Peter Packer picked up pickled peppers. Damn you, Lemon, you're making me sound like an idiot here. Next time I'm giving that one to Jill. Hi, hungry. And the Edge Time says, "Hi, hungry."
Peter
Here's
Packer picked a peck of pickled peppers.
no, say it faster.
Well said.
There's Jill put the writer stuff in the chat here.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at it. It's fantastic. Thanks, Jill. I'm so glad you found that. I'd always look for something like that, but I just never could find anything. That's awesome. This is
Yeah,
very
thank you,
cool.
Jill.
And
Check out
here's
that link,
Hungry Boy's
everybody.
channel. And here's Hungry Boy's channel. All right, let's get it going. Now, I got a little bit of how accurate is it that the using the radio during a lightning storm there will attract the lightning and hit the ship there because you think they'd have that problem fixed.
I don't know. They made it look like this is the first time they've addressed that issue.
Yeah, because
And
like
the way they make it look, I'm guessing, I know we haven't gotten to that scene yet, but the way they make it look is that Professor Robinson knows about it, that it's possible, but Will's unaware of it and doesn't know that it's possible.
yeah,
If you're
because
asking if it's true that honing at a high frequency does that, that I'm not sure of.
yeah, because you think they'd have that issue fixed. Like it was like 1930s technology or 1940s technology. I could see it. But nowadays, we listen to the radio to get the
This is
updates, especially.
2023. Remember, this takes place in what was it, 1999,
1997.
1997. Remember, right?
Yeah, but I think they'd still have that problem fixed by then there because I even remember as a boy, we'd always grab the radio and take it downstairs there and listen for the weather reports to see how close the tornadoes were on that, how close the tornadoes were there.
Okay, you know
Especially,
what a light? Do you know what a lightning rod is, Gorilla?
yep, we took it off the roof of the house.
Well, because some people, in fact, there's some great stories written by Ray Bradbury centered around lightning rods, like the Dark Carnival, which was later turned into Something Wicked This Way Comes. But antennas, tall structures like antennas and lightning rods can attract electricity. So the question is sending out a signal over one of those, will that attract electricity even more? Because what
Mm.
Professor Robinson warns is that the danger is only high when there's an electrical storm.
Well, the thing is, basically, it had
But
to
we haven't
do, and
gotten
it
to that
did.
scene yet. I kind of, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like talking about if we haven't gotten to
Yeah,
that scene
well,
yet.
it was at the very beginning here.
The thing is, it was necessary to start the story along, right? Basically.
Yes. Okay, so we open up here with basically it's the conclusion from the last episode, and we have our Lost in Space family within the Jupiter 2, and apparently it's late at night, and they are having experiencing an electrical storm. So we have Doctor Smith and Will and the robot in the upper level of the Jupiter 2, and Will has been operating the radio, trying to see if he can pull in signals. And as he's doing this, the father comes in and then warns him that using the radio at such high frequencies could attract lightning. I guess if anything, maybe you would think that the ship was designed to repel lightning, perhaps, or they could put I don't know a lightning rod on the ship or something like that. I guess that might be the question. I'm not really sure. I know they don't address that, but we have. Let me cover this really quick here. Um, by the way, the writer Peter Packer was given this second assignment following his excellent handling. This is the same guy who wrote The Derelict. So they thought he did an excellent job in The Derelict. That's why he was handed this. So Buck Houghton and Tony Wilson handed the story springboard up to Packer, knowing it was tailor made for a writer who had a knack for both Western and science fiction. Packer, born and raised in England, but enamored by the American Western genre, came up with the hap-goodisms, such as, "Then you're just like me, lost as a wood tick on Bald Mountain." And ooh wee, ship was swarm with outlandish bugs no bigger than locusts, but 100 times as fierce, eating their way through the hull. Sometimes I got to admit it doesn't quite work well when you have British people trying to write westerns. Anybody who has seen the movie Superman 2, when the Salkinds handed it over to a British director and they tried to film scenes that took place in Texas, it was really, really, really bad. So Packer did do better than most British people writing westerns, but I'd say it's still some of it might be a little questionable. So here's where we have.
Well, the different. Oh wait, the
Go ahead,
difference
Joe.
between Derelict and this episode is that Derelict was the story idea was from Shyman, uh,
Winselberg.
Gaspar David,
Linselberg,
and
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the
that's
difference,
it.
I think. Yeah. Because
That's why
So,
I
that
think,
one was so
yeah,
much better.
that, yeah, definitely.
so maybe it's because Peter Packer had more hands-on in this rather than having instead of the outline was not handed to him. He actually wrote most of it himself, possibly.
That's the feeling I always got, yeah. By the way, I just want to mention when we mentioned the Great Vegetable Rebellion a little while ago, it must have been co-written because I'm also seeing it credited to another prolific writer who did 26 episodes called Don Richardson. So it must have been co-written by the two of them.
Very
Oh
possible.
yeah, they
Some
could have been a writing team,
Or
maybe.
Well,
maybe
yeah, and
one
sometimes
good, yeah,
right. Sometimes, just like with Trek, it'll have three or four different drafts that'll be handed down from one person to another to another.
or maybe one person came up with a story and the other person ended up doing the screenplay because that
Right,
happens
or
too, right?
sometimes right. One person will write it, another person will fine tune it. Some person will
Mm.
fine tune the dialogue, similar to how um, oh, my mind draws a blank. How could it? In Star Trek, like for example, you'd have a writer who would write a script, and then Gene Roddenberry would hone it and kind of tailor made it and
Oh
change it a
yeah,
little bit, and then DC Fontana would kind of do the same sometimes as well. But
rewrites.
then
Right.
Yeah.
they, yeah, or
How far along in the episode were we? I had to step away for a bit, so I don't know where we
We're
are.
still at the
oh,
very
this is
beginning here.
yeah, this is where we are. This is where we were talking about. Okay, so here's the next day. So basically, what happened was the night before is when Will Robinson was trying to tune the radio to trying to send out signals. And then that's when the father warned him that he shouldn't do that because it could pull electricity down to the ship. And then that's when Dr. Smith noticed on the radar that there was something headed their way. And they said that, well, they basically said it was headed their way, but I'm guessing whatever it was took a while to get there because now we cut to the next day, the next morning, and it looks like whatever that ship is still has not arrived yet, but it's en route and it looks like it'll be arriving any moment. And then they see on their I don't know if it's radar. I hate using that word or spectroscope or whatever they use here. They find out that it did land, but of course, Doctor Smith has always got to blow everything out of proportion, and he figures it's some sort of deadly intruder spreading its lethal virus. Of course, typical for him trying to spread
I
fear
know,
throughout
but
everybody.
in a way, at the end of the episode, you kind of see that he was sort of right.
In a
Almost.
way, yes. In a way, well, definitely with the ship not being decontaminated correctly. And here's where they notice that it has landed, and that's when Professor Robinson says that he'll take the robot and investigate and break out the lasers. And of course, Dr. Smith doesn't want to leave the robot too far behind because that's his personal protection, as the way he looks at his personal bodyguard. What use are they going to use against a monster who eats electrons for breakfast? So once again, of course, he's exaggerating. And then what's funny is that Professor Robinson says, "Absolutely, that's a great idea. In fact, why don't you come with us, Doctor Smith?"
That was good. That was a good part. Because
Yes,
Smith just hates that idea.
yes, he does hate that idea, but that's why they decide, okay, they're going to bring the robot. And I have notes here. Okay, on August 8th, 1965, after reading Packer's third draft of the script, Irwin Allen sent notes to Buck Houghton and Tony Wilson in a clear indication that Allen was supportive of the transformation of Smith from cold-blooded to lily-livered. He wrote, "The robot and Smith should not be leading the column." So what he's talking about is them heading towards the ship. As they were in the, he wants it was Irwin Allen's idea to put the robot and Dr. Smith in the rear of everybody, with Dr. Smith behind the robot. As they were in the rear of the two proceedings, it would be funny if we saw the robot striding at his usual pace, catching up to Don, Robinson, and Will, who have now become more cautious. Smith, attempting to still use him as a shield, talks quietly to him, saying, "Slow down, you idiot. What are you trying to do? Get me killed?" So that was a note from Irwin Allen. So you can see that was some of his influence of more and more of making Dr. Smith seem more like a coward. And as you can see, he's even at, which we'll see a lot more later on in the series, He's not afraid to use Will Robinson as a human shield either, because he'll put him right in front of him. And as we see here, he grabs Will's arm and says, "Don't tremble." And Will says, "I'm not. You are."
Yeah, this is a good scene, and this is kind of foreshadowing the sort of relationship that the two of them will develop as the series goes on.
Yes, and it's great too because they were actually, unlike today, they were getting feedback. Well, they today, even today when they make shows, they get immediate feedback from the audience. They get,
There,
back
I
then they
have
didn't
an
force.
emergency. I'll be right back.
Oh,
Go for it, Jill. Back then they didn't have Twitter and everything we have now, but
yeah,
they were able to get some feedback from audiences. People used to write letters back then and call the networks. But the difference is back then they would listen to what the audience said. They would listen to the suggestions, what the audience liked and what they didn't like. So the audience was immediately warming up to the idea of Dr. Smith turning more cowardice and more humoristic. So Irwin Allen recognized that, and so did Jonathan Harris. So that's why you can see the transformation here over just a few episodes, where he's not as menacing as he was before. It's just
yeah,
too bad these days they don't listen to their audience anymore. It's like they're in spite of, they do everything opposite the audience doesn't want.
yeah. Smith was more sneaky than evil in this one for sure.
Yes, manipulative. Yes, manipulative, but
Yeah,
he's not
exactly.
right. But he's not directly for the one of the first times not trying to hurt anybody in the Robinson family.
Yeah, he's not dangerous at all in this one. Yeah.
Hmm.
We
Yes,
got a few
Gorilla.
chats here. We
Thank
got a
you,
few.
Gorilla.
Captain Affinity says hungry. Hungry says finity. Captain says, "What's that you say, partner? The hell you will daha?
Howdy, partner.
Yeah, get off your milk and drink your horse."
What?
I have absolutely no idea. Hello, Blondie. Other says cheers, and Captain Affinity says, "Hooray for Dixie." Okay, see the dude with the glass head? I don't think he's altogether human.
I do have my suspicions. He may be a replicant. Oh, actually, no, he's not a replicant of anything. He's an original copy. So, but I think you're right. He's probably not human.
He's a Dalek.
He could be related to a Dalek. I mean, you know.
And it looks like here's something else I didn't notice, but it looks like he's missing his power pack. I
Yeah.
wonder how he's moving.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's a big flaw.
Yeah. Maybe this is the Dalek you order from Wish.com.
Oh no! I guarantee you, the robot costs a lot more to construct than a Dalek. And also another thing I wanted to point out about this episode, guys, if you notice that here's where we'll get more scenes of Bob May, the guy wearing the robot suit, without the traction on his
Oh
feet, and
yeah,
he's just walking and bobbing up and down. You could tell that when they show him walking
yeah,
among the rocks.
I noticed that instantly when I was watching this. Yeah, it was pretty funny actually.
Yeah, it kind of it stands out once you notice it, but it's okay. You can see why it saved a lot of time sometimes because when he was wearing those tracks and they had to pull him around on the stage, that took a lot of time for them to set that up.
Well,
And when they're moving around
yeah,
rocks and trees and everything, that's going to take more time
it
and more
is kind of
difficulty.
fun actually though, because there always was that sort of comical quality to the robot, even more so as the series progresses, right? So it's just fun basically.
Yes, definitely. But I think the holes. I think that's where the power pack goes.
Oh, that should be a
So
power pack on there. Yeah, that's a big oversight. Whoever was, directing this, somebody should have noticed. Like, wow.
Yeah, the props guy was on vacation. All right.
Yeah,
I
somebody
would think.
somebody
I would
messed
think.
up.
Yeah, I would think if anything, the actors, Phil Mooney especially, you think he would notice because he was really into this. I mean, if you were a kid, I would love this too. It's like he said that when they hired him for the role, that he was excited because he would be able to shoot ray guns and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
He
I
figured
can't
he'd be the
imagine.
person.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how much fun he must have had the 3 years that he was making this show. Like, wow.
Well, I know he was definitely heartbroken when it was canceled. It was too bad the way they did it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
because
but that should have been too surprising.
they were supposed to get a fourth season from what I've read, but something happened and they just canceled it.
Well, and
I
Irvin
can't think
Allen
of.
was
I
Go
can't
ahead,
think of
Gorilla.
any sci-fi show from that late that's had more than 3 seasons.
No, no, yeah, because the networks really didn't have any faith in them. Because as we all know, look at how popular Star Trek was, but they just kept trying to cancel it at every turn. They just had no faith in space shows at the time.
Yeah. Well, there was the occasional one. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea had 4 seasons, so occasionally there'd be one a little longer. But yeah. Generally they only had a few seasons. Yeah, yeah, true.
And another thing too is like when I showed you guys last week that clip from Family Feud and
Oh yeah.
how it was, yeah, the clip how it took place. That was filmed during the '80s when they were filming the Gilligan's Island reunion movies. That would have been the best time to have a Lost in Space reunion movie. They should have done that, but Irwin Allen was dead set against it, and that is a shame because
Why?
if Irwin Allen would have done it, he had already moved on. In fact, Bill Mooney wrote a really good script that was basically the rescue for the Robinson family when they make it back to Earth. He wrote a really good
That's a
script,
shame.
and he
Wow.
called Irwin Allen and said, "Look, I wrote the script." Irwin Allen. He said not only did Irwin Allen say no, but he started cussing it and told him, "Hell no!
You
If
know, it's
anybody's going to
odd.
do that, it's me."
It's odd though because I don't remember Irwin Allen doing jack shit in the '80s. To be quite honest, like nothing. I don't
No,
remember. You know?
no. After right after the sci-fi shows in the '60s, obviously he hit it really. He hit pay dirt
Yeah,
with Voyage to the Bottom of the sorry, with the Poseidon Adventure, and then the Towering Inferno.
yeah, but
But then
those are
after that,
'70s.
but
Yeah.
you're right. That's what I'm saying is but they were very successful.
Oh yeah, I
But the
remember
problem
seeing
is,
them at
yeah,
the
the problem
drive-in.
is, yeah, the problem is that he got redundant, and then he started making the Swarm about killer bees,
Oh
and
God.
a bunch of movies like that where it was disasters, and his career quickly tanked. So by the time the '80s came along, all he was making was BTV movies.
I can't understand why he wouldn't have jumped at a chance to do a Lost in Space reunion because that might have sort of revived his career for at least for a little while.
I know even the cast was willing to do it. They were,
Oh
yeah,
man, that's sad. Jeez,
right.
Irwin
They were
Allen.
all still
Jeez.
alive. They were still alive. Guy Williams was still alive. They all would have
Yeah,
done it. They were all willing to do it.
that would have been so cool. Oh well. Oh, here
And
we
here
go.
we are, and we have our introduction. So they use their scanner to locate where the anomaly is, and this is it. We get introduction of this week's guest.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool opening shot to introduce this character, though. I gotta say, it's kind of fun.
Right, it's funny. Oh, he's got his spacesuit and his cowboy boots on the
It's
outside of the
hilarious.
spacesuit.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It is. I remember everybody. The reason why we have this character is because westerns were still very big in the 1960s.
They were.
So of course we have the episode "Welcome Stranger" with Warren Oates, and immediately they can tell that he's friendly and that he's not a threat. So he immediately holds his hand out and he does shake their hand. So he's not an antagonist. He is a good guy from the beginning, which is kind of refreshing too.
Yeah, that was
Because
a
I know,
nice change of pace. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but
because
not
I
all bad guys come off as evil right away. Someone
we
can hide their evilness behind a smile.
well, that's what I
Oh
was
yeah.
saying is his character. That's what I was reading earlier from the book. Is his character is more three dimensional, and he wasn't like that. He was honest. Clear to the very end, he was heartbroken because he. Well, I don't want to give away the ending, but he's honest. I'll put it that way. He doesn't change, and then they find out he's some kind of mustache twirling villain. So here's where he says he also spotted their ship, and he said that he's been in space for 15 years. That he left in the 1980s. He's been traveling around. So here's where they established that apparently space travel did exist before the Robinsons headed off into the great unknown.
Well, imagine being an astronaut. Someone asks you about your location or where you were, and your answer is that away.
Right? He
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be very scientific.
No.
Um, and he calls his ship Traveling Man. So when he
Traveling
mentions
man.
Traveling Man, at
Yeah.
first they don't know what he's talking about. And he says that's the name of his ship. By the way, I mean, it looks like a nice design, but I wouldn't recommend it for anybody with claustrophobia.
Well, it seems, this is one thing I gotta say, one criticism I have of the episode. It seems like a pretty tiny ship to be traveling around the galaxy for 15 years.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And another
And
thing, like at the start, we see it's obviously propelled by rockets, right? When it's landing.
uh-huh.
And I'm just thinking, okay, rockets need fuel. This thing doesn't look like it's big enough to have much of a huge fuel tank. So does he land every couple of weeks and refuel somewhere or what? Like that's part of the science that didn't add up for me on this one.
Well, if you
Well, they,
remember in this season, as they start repairing the Jupiter 2, they start mining fuel from that planet there for the Jupiter 2.
yeah,
I
Right.
think they called it, I'm trying to remember, but I think they call it neutronium.
I'm still
yeah.
just wondering how he kept flying around for 15 years though.
That makes sense.
Well,
I like
PVV.
that.
Have you forgotten that mobile is spread across the across the galaxy? There, they got mobile stations on every planet.
Oh, then maybe that's it. Yeah, maybe he just gasses up every once in a while.
Well, something else they had thought of at the time, which we do have now, is we do have solid fuel rocket boosters. So, but they back
Okay.
then they were still thinking of liquid fuel, but we do have solid fuel, which tends to last longer in space.
Yeah. I
But
just think of
as we
I
know
just think
now with
of
our
a
technology,
I
sorry, go
just think
ahead.
of a galactic ship that's going to cruise around for 15 years. I generally think of those as being a little bigger than the traveling man.
Oh yeah, it would be right.
If anything, it definitely wouldn't have accounted for having any more than one passenger on that ship.
Well, that was another thing. Yeah, oh, I don't want to give it away yet, but we'll get there when later on.
At, but I wasn't expecting to get Western in my sci-fi, so I was laughing quite a bit at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny. I laughed a lot too. Yeah, it's fun. Well, the thing
Like
is,
I almost couldn't breathe.
Warren Oates is so kind of, even though the character, I think the character's kind of silly, quite honestly, but Warren Oates actually kind of sells it. Like, I think if they'd had a lesser actor in this, it could have really been bad. But he's got such a charm to him that he can kind of work with the script he's been given, and he kind of carries the episode for me. So, so that elevates it, at least a little bit.
That's true. It was funny instead of cringy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, and another thing too is you'll notice that he actually gets a lot of screen time. A lot of times when they have a guest
Oh, yeah.
character, they don't get much, but he actually, guessing he gets more screen time in this episode than even the Jupiter 2 crew.
Well, that's why I say he basically, for me, he carried the episode
It was
because
good that they made the character likable to that kind of help. If he would have been a
oh
two
yeah,
dimensional bad guy, I think it may not have been as entertaining.
agree.
So here's where they're establishing that he left more than 15 years ago, and he's telling them about his adventures along the way. And we're talking about the lack of space in that rocket. We're not even talking about supplies for food, bathroom, things like that. So yeah, I guess it would be incredibly small.
Oh yeah, I thought of that stuff too.
If anything, it might be more like a short range shuttle. Or if you said that he had like a mothership that he was originally part of, they got lost or something like that, that might have helped. And here's where he's talking about him and Will are starting to get to know each other. And Will was saying that he was trying to read something on the radio when he picked up the signal for the rocket or the ship, I guess. I remember at first they thought it was a missile, but it was actually just his ship. And now he's decontaminating the exterior of the ship. And the decontamination device that he's using is an electrojet spray fog machine manufactured by Mulgrew Aircraft Company with a few fins added. So it was an actual device, but it was just actual, of course, just fog. But what he's doing is he's decontaminating the ship on the exterior because he's telling Will that last time when you did not decontaminate, that when he came back, that there was a horde of. He said he wasn't sure, but he said they were like locusts and they were trying to eat the exterior of the ship.
Yeah,
Right.
okay,
So
so there's a dissonance here between the fact that these are either spores or bacteria mixing together to create entire organisms. What?
well, and I guess he's saying that I could be wrong. Did he say that it was a combination that? Let me try to explain it. Did he say that it was a combination of what he brings combines with whatever's on the planet?
Right, it does.
Yeah.
It procreates
Yeah.
with the planet.
I know, which okay, the science is a little out there. So yeah, I apologize for that, everybody.
It's funny. Well, it actually made more sense to me in the last episode where it was the seeds from Earth mixing in with the microbes from the soil that were already organisms. So the organisms mixed with the seeds to make those monster pea pods. That
Yes,
that I followed a little bit more because that's where the procreation came from was the plants.
exactly right.
Although I need to help my baby go to bed. I'm sorry.
Okay, go for it. You're
That's
fine.
okay, Jill.
So while she's doing that, let's catch up on the chat here. All right, Hungry says, and as a monster loving kid, this was the part that made me say, "Ooh no!"
Before I really go hungry, do you mean you thought that the cowboy was a giant? Because I thought that for a second too.
Oh, the forced perspective with him on the rock. I guess yeah, he did kind of. I remember thinking that when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
They
And
shot it almost the same way they did when the other episode with it when they were giants in the earth.
all right, and Basil Battle Dragon says, "The glory of Hollywood." Then Herc says, "Hey panel and chat, I was late for the dumbest reason, but I'm here now." Well, hey there, Herc. Welcome. And Edge of Time says, "Eat at Sporeteria." And Francis Herc. Herc says, "Hey to Edge of Time." Oh, Jill's not here. I'll come back to this one. A lot. LOL. Hey, hey, Phantom Boomer. Edge says, "Hello, friends." Phantom says, "Matt G, howdy." Herc says, "Matt G." Matt says, "Hello, LOL." And Hungry says, "Hello, Jill. I meant that I realized there'd be no monster." Alright.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Gorilla.
Wait,
And
is
by the
Jill
way,
back? She's unmuted.
no, I think she's away. Warren
Okay.
Oates played Jimmy Hapgood. He was 32 when he filmed this. In the course of his career from 1956 until his untimely death in 1982, he would amass close to 150 television and film appearances. Prior to Lost in Space, he had been a regular in 32 episodes of Stony Brook Jack Lord's one-hour drama set, but he was also in an episode called "The Mutant" of from Outer Limits. Um, so the production diary says this episode was filmed from September 8th through September 17th, total of 8.5 days, which means they did run overtime, unfortunately. Looks like day one filming began in the lower deck of the Jupiter 2, including the one in which Smith planted seeds of doubt in Will's and Penny's minds about parting with their parents. Other scenes shot include a Marine telling John that Will and Penny were missing. Started but not finished, the surgery on the robot. Filming lasted until 6:30 p.m. Alvin Ganzer covered 8 pages of script and finished on schedule. Day two, the company spent the day on stage 11, filming the area around Hapgood's traveling man spacecraft. Camera began rolling at 8. Actually, it has it all the time. Camera began rolling at 8 a.m. with the last shot complete at 6:54 p.m. Ganser was only able to put 5 and 6 to 8 pages of the script to the film. So they're explaining exactly why they ran over time, unfortunately. Thursday, September 9th, back on stage 5, they continued with the scenes left incomplete on day 1, including the surgery on the robot.
This is amazing detail. Like this is a fantastic book.
It is, and I wish I had the they. It's every covers every single day, the times and the scene shot. And I didn't realize after I bought the book, but he has one for Star Trek too, which I wish I had for Jill's stream.
Oh, that would be fantastic. But you know, like I can't believe that there's even a record to that level of detail about something filmed so long ago. Like I find that remarkable that somebody actually made notes and kept all that information.
Exactly. Day 4, Friday, September 10th. Filming took place on stage 5 from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Still trying to finish the scene from the day before. Next, a midday company moved to stage 11 to finish sequences needed in the area where Traveling Man had landed. Ganser had an ambitious shot in mind, requiring hauling a camera up into the rafters of the stage in order to shoot down at Jonathan Harris as he shouted after the departing traveling man. The problem with the ambitious shots is they require extra care and time. Ganger ran out of both before even getting his shot started. The director only covered 2 and 7/8 pages from the script on a schedule which called for roughly 10 pages per day. They worked until 7:20 p.m. and were 1.5 days behind when production suspended.
Hmm.
So I don't want to get too much off topic there. Sorry, guys. So
Well,
here we have where
I just want to mention quickly that I'm looking on the page that Jill provided for us, the website. I'm looking at Alvin Ganser. He only directed this one episode, and from what you're saying, I think there's probably that's the reason why, because he went over time. So that's
yes,
kind of interesting.
and apparently he wasn't very happy either. Um, Director Alvin Ganger was 54. He came to Lost in Space with an impressive resume. He had directed 4 episodes for his friend Buck Houghton on The Twilight Zone and had visited
Oh,
other early TV sci-fi series.
hmm.
He only did one Lost in Space. He said, "I did not want to do the show, but I was romanced into it doing it by my friend, producer Buck Houghton, who was the line producer. He called me and asked me to do it. I said I really did not want to do a space show, but he said, please do it for me. So I agreed to do it. I came on the set and asked where Buck was, and they told me he had resigned the day before. So
Oh
here I
no.
was trapped on this show that I really did not want, but I did it, and I was all right.
Yeah, I can see why that might have made him a bit unhappy. That's kind of unfortunate.
Houghton had given notice, but contrary to Ganger's recollections, he had not yet exited the building. He would remain in his office on a reduced basis until the end of the first week in October, three
Huh.
episodes down the road.
Wow.
So we have Hap Good talking to Will. And by the way, Hap Good also was a inspiration for the Steve Miller song "Space Cowboy." So if anybody
Okay,
remembers that
Oh,
song,
really? That's
yes,
funny. That's
that's
really
cool.
cool.
Well, there
it
he's a
is,
space cowboy.
and it's a good song too, and it's a very good song. So that's very cool. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Well,
Steve Miller had a lot of good songs.
well,
yeah.
when I watch science fiction, I sometimes like to look up the real science behind it, and so I did find out that in 2020 scientists did actually discover a kind of bacteria that could eat metal. So there wasn't locusts, but it was bacteria. So if they would have stuck with the fact that the soil and the bacteria from the soil and the spaceship mixed together to make a metal eating bacteria, that would have made 100% sense.
Hey,
Well, it
Jill.
does, and if you and too, when Hap could describe it, he couldn't. But the thing is, he couldn't describe it. He said it was kind of like locusts.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a specific description or name for it. He was just trying to, for somebody from Texas, trying to describe it from his point of view, what it may have been something similar to.
Well, Hapgood seems more like a wandering, explorer than any kind of real scientific person.
Well, look at here. He actually picks a plant off the ground and tries to smoke it.
Yeah,
And I mean, I'm
exactly.
not a scientist, and I know that's not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think that you kind of think, what's this going to do to my lungs, right? Like, jeez, or my brain chemistry if it's the wrong kind of plant.
So
That
we
could have been nasty.
so we have Hapgood and Will heading back to the Jupiter 2 because they want to show Hapgood the Jupiter 2.
But
And
this
as we
part
do
I
that,
thought was a cute idea to show the microbes that we can't actually see, but still give us a visual of them.
Yeah, I
yeah, it
thought
was
that was
great
kind
because
of cool.
they're establishing that Will didn't exactly finish decontaminating the ship and that he missed some areas.
Yeah. Hey, Jill. Your number one fans here.
Oh, hello, Matt G.
Matt G never fails to impress. Always here. Good to see you, Matt G.
Oh, we got a few comments here.
Thank you, Gorilla.
Before we get Tom back on, and Hunger says hi to Herc and Matt G. Matt G's apparently having some pizza, and Basil says, "Danger, Well Robinson," and apparently Jill was in the chat. Goes on, then you were pleasantly surprised. Jill said that hungry for UFO stuff for oh. Hungry says, "LOL, I need my aliens and monsters. I'm afraid, dear Jill." Says and then it says, "F in the
I can
chat,
understand that.
cut your own hair."
And
And
this show
it,
definitely delivers for that.
Right.
here's Phantom Boomer's channel, and F I buzz mine. This is where I get my own sister to do my hair for me. And Herc says, "Okay, I knew a lot about music, and I did not know that about Steve Miller Band and Space Cowboy." All right, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Gorilla. So here we have where Penny is working on the garden, and we have Professor and Maureen Robinson talking about how that maybe perhaps they can convince Harpgood into taking the kids with them back to Earth because they've said that they really thought about it from the beginning. They regret bringing the kids with them because the mission has not went like they originally planned, and they know that it's more dangerous, and they don't know they'll ever make it to Alpha Centauri.
So let's send it. So let's send our kids with the guy who has been deliberately lost for 15 years away from Earth.
Right. Well, that's
Yeah.
why they. But remember now, they're going to help him by giving them their guidance system.
Yeah, but he didn't have the willingness or the desire to figure this out on his own this whole time.
Well, you're right about that.
He's basically a wandering adventurer. I
Yeah.
see Hapgood. He. I don't think he ever really wants to go back to Earth.
And honestly,
You know.
Hapgood himself is the actual voice of reason in this episode. Like, hey, wait, I can't take kids. That's not me.
Well,
And
the thing
he
is,
only gets guilted into it, and then he realizes it's a bad idea.
like we said before, the ship is so damn small. Like, how could you fit him and two kids in there? Like, they'd probably get on each other's nerves pretty fast, I would think. you know,
Piggyback.
I just don't see how it could even be feasible. Quite honestly.
Well, what's worse is imagine him in there with Dr. Smith. It's like, oh God, no.
Oh no, that would be terrible. Oh, one weird thing is that it says that this spaceship has a ballast tank, and I looked that up, and it seems to be a component mostly used for a ship or a submarine that is in the water to help it get through the waves. So why does a
Right.
spaceship have that?
Right. To be
Well,
exact, what a
yeah,
ballast is for is like a ship like the Titanic, for example. A ballast is a compartment down below where it takes on water, so it's not so top heavy. That way, like the Poseidon Adventure is a perfect example. Anybody who's seen that, it's about a luxury liner that gets overturned by a big wave. But normally in real life, that wouldn't happen because when they're in rough waters, they'll take on ballast, which means they'll fill up those containers down below with water, which makes the bottom of the boat heavier. That way, if it gets hit by a wave, it won't topple over. But part of the plot of the Poseidon Adventure was the captain, played by Leslie Nielsen, wanted to take on ballast because they were in a storm, but the ship was on its last voyage and it was going to be scrapped. And the company that owned it said, "No, we're in a hurry. We need to get there. We don't have time to take on ballast." So that was the reason why the ship overturned in the first place when it was hit by the wave, because they didn't have that extra water down below. So ballast is also it's used as a balance,
Hmm.
and they also used it in balloons, hot air balloons. They used the sandbags as ballast. Whenever they needed to raise the ship higher, they would start dropping sandbags. I'm sorry, the balloon higher, they would start dropping sandbags.
Definitely
And I
makes
don't.
sense for those.
so
Yeah, it
really,
does. I'm not sure how it would in a ship like that because usually it's
yeah,
for balance or weight.
it seems like pretty weak science, for a spaceship. But that's one thing I have a little bit of trouble with some of Peter Packer's scripts. He's not exactly the most genius guy when it comes to like writing something that seems scientifically plausible. His stuff can kind of go a little more into fantasy sometimes, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. His stuff it's entertaining, but when you're there for the science,
Yeah.
maybe don't be so much.
Yeah, that's why he's not my favorite Lost in Space writer. Even though I think he did write some decent ones, but he's not my favorite by far. Yeah.
Although I did enjoy listening to pop culture talk about the ballast of the ships. It's fun
Well, it does give us, something to talk about. Yeah.
because that is essentially what we base space travel on is submarine travel, and so it makes some sense that they go there, but it's
Yeah.
just not right.
Maybe Peter, read something in a book somewhere, and he thought, "Hey, that sounds like fun. Let's put a ballast tank on the ship." You know.
Yeah, I don't think they're going too much for accuracy. Probably it doesn't sound like right.
Yeah, I don't think he generally did that.
And let's send our kids with the space cowboy. That's gonna be fun. Not gonna be worried at all.
You know, it's another thing too that shows a reflection of the times is these days it's like stranger danger, and that was unheard of back then.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that not being a concern. That's what I was thinking the entire time. Like you're gonna send this kid,
It's like
welcome
yeah,
stranger,
maybe
meet my kids,
yeah,
please.
right now doesn't he get a little lonely up there sometimes?
Oh no, let's not go there.
Oh damn it! Pop culture took my whole spiel on this thing. I was waiting for it.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. What? Like why? Why did they bring the entire Robinson family along? What if something happened to the family? Who's gonna carry on the family name? There, is that gonna involve like where there's others coming behind them or something, or how are they exactly supposed to um make a thriving settlement? Let's just put it that way.
I would guess that probably there were other ships planned to follow, and they were like one of the advanced ships to kind of go and make the initial exploration when they landed. But of course, everything went totally wrong, so that never happened.
Of course.
Right. I think yeah, they definitely set it up to where this was the first pioneering family, and that there would be more to follow after their success.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, even back, in the Wild West, people would set out on their wagon trains and they'd take the family with them, and it was extremely dangerous, and a lot of people, didn't survive, but it still happened, right? So
Yeah, I played Oregon Trail on Apple too.
there you go.
Absolutely.
A lot of the kids these days wouldn't even
Jill,
make it back
they're
past the Kansas River.
yeah, there's a
It's
horror
very.
movie coming out called Oregon Trail.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That sounds not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll give that
No,
one a
yeah.
pass.
It sounds as bad as that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. I tried to watch that. My
Are
God, it
you
was
kidding?
horrible.
Blood
It
and
was
honey.
horrible. Yeah, really,
Yeah.
really
He's
bad.
not
You could
kidding.
you could tell.
What has happened to our
Yeah.
world?
Well, Winnie the Pooh hit public domain, and as soon as it did, it's like this is the first studio that scrambled to put a couple $100 together and film a movie, and it's as bad as it sounds. It's not even. So yeah, stay away from that movie, guys.
So is
It's
it
not
like
worth
Winnie
it.
the Pooh as a slasher villain or something?
Winnie the Pooh and his friends are killers, and they eat humans.
Oh, that sounds so charming.
Well, you think, well, maybe I could think of a good way of writing a good script, but this is like something you could tell they slapped together in a couple days.
Oh
The
my
makeup is
goodness.
atrocious. The filming is that the acting, everything. It looks like a low budget movie. It looks like a
Well,
homemade movie. I'll put it that way. Something
with
like
a
they hired their high
concept
school friends.
with that concept, it doesn't deserve to be anything but atrocious. That's awful. Just
It
want to
is.
quickly comment before we continue here. It's totally believable in the 60s. Of course, this is supposed to take place in 1997, but it was filmed in the 60s. And back then, my parents, they didn't care what I was doing. I could go wander, I'd walk, downtown to the Saturday morning, theater to watch the Saturday matinee, and they didn't care where I was.
Wow.
Nobody worried about that
How
stuff
far
Nope.
back
away
then.
was downtown?
Oh, it was like maybe a half hour walk.
Jeez.
Same here. When I was
I
when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, I would catch the bus all over town, walk around town. It
Yeah,
wasn't
That's
like
crazy.
today. It was
it was
not like
totally
today.
different. Different
I
world.
let the farthest I let my kid go is to the corner store, and I sent him with my phone, and he's 10.
Well, see, that's the
But
thing. It was so wonderful to be a kid and a teenager back, in the 60s and 70s because there were no phones. Your parents couldn't track you. You'd go out with your friends on a Friday or Saturday night, do whatever crazy stuff you got up to. But the thing was, nothing bad ever happened. Like, it just
No.
wasn't that kind of world back then.
Yeah, when I was
We'd
in
go off
second
and have
grade,
our good adventures, but we never got into real serious trouble.
I walked 2 miles to school and back every day.
Wow, that's a
And
walk.
everybody expected it. It was nothing new. It was
Oh
okay.
yeah, we'd go out on the weekend, ride our bikes around all day, do whatever, and yeah, it was a different world.
But I will say that it was not unheard of because I was almost abducted when I was really young. I was about 2 or 3, and there was this neighborhood like a drunk,
Oh God.
and he tried to kidnap me. He tried to offer me candy and take me
Oh
down to
no.
the store. I still remember this. He was offering me candy, and he was going to take me down to the store at the corner at the end of the street. And he took me by the hand, and he was taking me. And I remember my mom called the cops, and the cops came and they arrested them.
Good.
My mom made me sit in the house for 2 days, so it was
You got
not unheard
punished.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
the thing is,
I didn't know. I was like, what, what happened? I had, of course, I wasn't old enough to really comprehend what
no,
had been going
there
on.
were there were kids that got abducted and murdered back in those days, but it was very, very rare.
Well,
Really.
Yes,
well,
it
mine
was.
mine was at least I was old enough to defend myself. I was like 15 or 16 or so. I'd walk the restaurant I worked at was a mile outside of town there. And I was walking home from work one Sunday there when some guy stopped and he goes, "Hey, I'm trying to find the interstate." I was like, "Yeah, just keep going down the road. As soon as you hit the bridge, you're at the interstate there." Blah blah blah. He goes, "Oh, you talking about that kind of big bridge there? How about you just hop in and show me where it is?" And then I was like, "No, no, nope. I'm getting home. I gotta get home." There.
Wow.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not too shy. I'm not shy. I'll take a cheap shot on you.
As long as you don't take a cheap ride with somebody, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Never get in a
Well, I've
stranger's
taken a
car.
few cheap rides, but I kind of knew. The nice thing about the small town is you kind of know. Like someone goes, like the one guy who gave me a ride a couple times there. He liked my work ethic there. He just told me who his dad was. I was like, oh okay,
Right.
because his dad owned the the place that builds the fireplaces and stuff. So
Yeah.
and
Cool.
I used to deliver their papers. So
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so here we have. Excuse me.
holy
This
crap!
is
Can we
where.
talk about cats?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Lemon Pie says, "Hey Herc." Matt says, "LOL." Herc says, "Lemon Pie, so great to see you in the chat. It's a good one tonight." And Lemon Pie says, "Good to see you too, Herc." Edge says, "Get rid of stubborn ship rust with this one weird trick." And apparently it's a bunch of germs. And here's my channel there. A lot of gaming stuff lately. Oiler Grad says, "I take on extra beer for ballast." Yeah, and here's Oiler Greg's channel for a spoiler for reviews. Then Herc says, "Hello to Oiler Greg." And Herc says, in 1997, I was partying like it was 1999. Um, Dave Hungry says, "My parents dropped me off to see Halloween by myself in 78, LOL." Matt Peary says, "What time period do you mean? PvP?"
Oh, when I was a kid, it was in the '60s.
Yeah. And Matt G says, "Because it's 2023, the concept of the old days is definitely not the same as it was."
Oh, it was a totally different world.
Now, I think the problem is we hear about it more often than we used to hear about it.
Well, there's more media coverage too. That's true, but still, I don't think it was as common a thing back then. Because let's put it this way: there were no homeless people back then. There were no
That
beggars
too,
on the
yes.
streets. Everybody, had a job of some sort and seemed to
Well,
be a
you got to remember too
responsible
back
adult,
then.
right?
Well, yeah, because I was going to say back then they used to lock people up when they were.
But it's just there was like
They used to lock people up
back
when they
then,
were violent or
people would have
mentally
been
ill. They used to lock
ashamed
people up. They
to
don't do
be
that anymore. Now they
on the
release them on
street.
the street, so that's another reason why everything's bad as it is.
Well, people would have been ashamed to be on the street begging back in those days. That was the difference, right? Now there is no shame, it seems, with some folks.
No, unfortunately.
Oh, I was going to ask that guy that tried to take you for candy. His name wasn't Smith, was it?
No, I wouldn't remember. I just remember that he was. We had seen him that he was a drunk that was hanging around the street, and I remember the store at the end. It was called Bond Street Market. I still remember the name of the store. I used to
Huh.
buy pixie sticks there. That
Oh, I
was around the
remember
time I
those.
was buying. Yeah, that was
I
around the
remember
time I
those.
was buying pixie sticks. So I remember it very clearly, like it happened yesterday. But
Yeah, well, I guess something that
Fortunately,
scary. Yeah.
yeah, what happened was my siblings, my older brother and them were outside and they saw and they immediately ran to the house and said, "Hey, he's taking him away." So my mom
Boy.
ran out and of course they went and grabbed me from him and called the police and had him arrested.
You were lucky. You were lucky.
Yep. I was stupid. I was 2, you know, I did.
Well, yeah. Well, like when you're two, it's pretty easy to be stupid.
Yeah. Which is exactly what those creeps do, you know, they're going to focus on the naive, right?
Yeah.
And target it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we have where this is what I was mentioning earlier. This is where Professor Robinson is offering to give Hapgood the guidance system if he takes. He didn't say if he takes the kids because they haven't really asked him about the kids yet. But here where they're showing him the built-in guidance system, and Hapgood tells him, "Well, aren't you guys going to need this?" And he says, "We think that we can reach our destination without it," which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah. It seemed a bit weird, to be quite honest. Another little nitpick I have with the episode, to be honest.
Well, and this here makes sense too. It says, "Well, I appreciate your gift, John, but that thing's too big. It's too heavy."
Exactly.
And that's of course they say, "Well, can't you get rid of some of the things on your ship?" And he says, "Well, I don't really have. If I jettison any more than I already have, I'd have to walk home," which
Yeah,
totally
that's
makes
a good
sense.
line.
I don't think he has any extra room.
The thing is, though, Professor Robinson should have asked him straight out, about taking the kids back to Earth before he even offered to give him the guidance system, right? I mean, that would have saved a lot of grief. But of course, I know the story had to happen, of course.
Well, I think what they were trying to do is they didn't want it to look like that John was going to give him the device. Or I'm sorry, Mr. Professor Robinson did not want to give him the device if he took the kids. It wasn't like a trade off. I think he's trying to make it look like he was just being honest, saying, "Look, we'll give you this here for your trip," and then later asking him if he would take the kids with him, rather
Yeah.
than straight out saying, "Hey, look, if you take my kids, we'll give you this here,"
Yeah, they didn't want Professor Robinson to look like he was offering him a bribe or something, I guess. Yeah.
which is kind of good because then that shows that he's not being
It makes
deceptive, I guess.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and let's see where we are here. So here's where Dr. Smith says, "But wait a minute, we have all those devices in miniature form right here inside the robot. Spectroscope, navigational guidance system, everything." And this is heartbreaking here when we know we love the robot. The last thing we want to see is them starting to take them apart. But Dr. Smith doesn't care about that, of course. The only Dr. Smith, as we know, wants to do is get home, and he's willing to sacrifice anything or anybody for it, including the robot. So they're asking, when is Hapgood planning on leaving? And Don's saying, well, within about 48 hours, our navigational guidance system. So they're trying to decide if they have time to remove parts from the robot and install them in Hapgood's ship before he leaves in 2 days. So they're still doing the negotiating at this point. And here's where he says he could give him a lock on the Kruger 60. And that's actually a real system. Hapgood, he figures he could find Earth from Kruger 60. Kruger 60 is a pair of red dwarf stars in binary orbit, only about 13 light years from Earth. Kruger 60 is just next door to us. So I was actually surprised that that's actually based in fact.
Gosh, that's interesting. I wonder if it was Peter Packer who actually noted that, or if he got some input from somebody else. Because
I'm guessing maybe input. Somebody came in and said, "Look, can't you put something in there that makes sense?"
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, like the robot. Oh, this hurts to see. This hurts to see. I love how Doctor Smith is wearing rubber gloves when he's operating on the robot too. That was pretty hilarious.
Well, he does mention the sterile environment and that he was going to wash up.
I still thought that was funny. So, like a robot, needs sterile gloves. Like that was pretty cool. But my question is, once again, problem with the science here. When you're, taking cannibalizing the robot here, isn't the robot going to maybe not quite function as well as he should be?
Exactly, right? That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
But of course, like we said, Dr. Smith doesn't really care about that, right?
Mm. I do
But
love
also,
that
as
evil
you
grin.
mentioned, the Kruger 60 being a real space, real celestial object. They also mentioned Vidicon film, which was actually used in early spacecraft in photography.
Yes. In fact, I'll make this quick. I kind of did a little lesson with Gorilla last year about Vidicon. Vidicon was a format they used to use, and the cameras were also Vidicon. They had what was called Vidicon tubes. So anybody who has seen any old shows, the Vidicon tube could burn easily. So if you ever watch an old show, specifically, especially the videotape, when the camera would flash by anything bright, it would burn the Vidicon tube temporarily, and you would get this big streak. So Vidicon was very susceptible to light if there was anything bright. So that's why it really didn't last, and they had to phase it out because it really did not look very good as far as broadcast quality. It looked very cheap. And
Is
somebody could be
is
sorry. Go
that
ahead,
like
PvP.
is that like shows that were on videotape back then? Because I think I might have seen some old videotape shows where you can see a streak at times.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. A lot of Vidicom was around for a long time, black and white and color. If you've
Okay.
seen any of like the color videotape, like American Bandstand from the '70s, All in the Family, all that stuff that was filmed on videotape. Anytime it went by a bright object, you'd see that big streak of color.
Okay. It's been a long
So
time since I've seen anything like that, but I think I do remember seeing stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm sure I can find it. Bear with me here. I'm going to find a sample of it. All right, but I'll do that as we're continuing here, so we don't get lagged behind on it. So here we have Dr. Smith removing parts from the robot. This kind of reminded me of Spock's brain because as he's operating on the robot's awake and alive and aware, and basically warning him that attitude stabilizer losing power, which is kind of heartbreaking if you care about the robot. But of course, Dr. Smith doesn't seem to care as he's pulling out pieces.
Yeah, I liked that the robot kept talking to him through the surgery. That was pretty. I thought it was kind of funny, actually. I was kind of laughing, to be quite honest.
It was right. And but like Jill says, he does pull out um, some of the tape, and you can see that what it actually is 35 millimeter film that has not been exposed. So you can tell by the size that that's exactly what it is. And now we cut to later on that evening, and they do have the stabilizer apparently removed, and it's up there on that piece of black felt. And they're making dinner for Mr. Hapgood, so they're treating him very nice. And I like when Judy said, "Would you like more of my mom's space pie?" It's an interesting recipe, space
Space
pie.
pie, space casserole, space whatever. They just put space in front of everything.
Right. Oh, so I guess it's full of space. But
Yeah, it's like the Flintstones when they put rock in everything.
yeah, exactly right.
I haven't thought of that in a long time yet. Yeah, that's true.
Yep, that is true. And now is where John and Maureen are talking to the kids about how they have already pretty much decided. In fact, that's how it goes. Is they tell the kids that they want them to return with Hapgood back to Earth, and Will even says, "So I guess you've already made up your mind." And the father says yes, so they know that there's. Otherwise, you'd probably have the kids arguing, saying, "We don't want to go, we don't want to go," and crying and all that kind of stuff. You'd have the back and forth between them and their parents. But the parents have told them they've already made up their mind, so the kids are willing to accept it. And here's where he tells them, in fact, going back to Earth is something your mother and I believe is right for you. I thought that was kind of touching too. And the kids obviously are not going to be very happy about it.
There is the
Are we doing,
occasional good line in this episode, definitely for sure.
are we doing on the chat, Gorilla?
We got a couple of them here.
Yeah, can you cover that, please? I appreciate it.
All right. Herc says they tried to lock up Rambo and see what happened. People told me in the 90s when I was a kid It's not like the 50s or early 60s. Now, those parents who have kids are probably trying to pass off the 90s as the new days of innocence. They're not, lol.
No, they
It's the
aren't.
law of diminishing returns. Yeah, Dr. Smith doesn't want to get COVID.
No, fortunately, they didn't know about COVID then. So we have them telling the kids they decided that they want the kids to go back with half good. And like I said, the kids are not happy about it, but they're willing to accept it. And now we're here's where Hapgood is basically opening it up to them, telling them about his experiences, and that you could tell that he's starting to warm up to the family, that he actually likes them, and appreciates them. And like I said, this is another example of showing that his character is a little more three dimensional, and it's not a dastardly evil person that's going to suddenly turn his back on them and try to do something bad. Which is also is which is establishing why that John and Maureen do trust him with the kids.
He does have a great sense of exploration. I don't know necessarily that I trust him with my kids, but he does. I do love the way that he uh, experiences space travel and also being on the planet looking at the stars. Because I had an experience like this in Mexico where there was absolutely no light pollution. I could see the Milky Way galaxy, I could see the band, and it was gorgeous. I knew I'd never really seen it before in that way. And when I looked through the binoculars, there was more white coming at me in the binoculars than the darkness of the night. So that was a pretty incredible thing to see. And so
Well, I
it's
could get
clear
it
that
pretty.
the author of this episode want to does have the right spirit for this show. It's just a little surface level, but I like it.
Well, I
Yeah,
could just go
I
out to
agree.
Tokyo Lake and there'd be absolutely no light pollution there. I didn't have to go all the way down to Mexico, just out of the country.
Well, no, I just happened to be in New Mexico, and it just happened to be the best
Oh,
stars I've
New
ever seen.
Mexico. I thought you said Mexico. Two different places there.
Yeah. Well, I've seen good stars in Texas too, but these were just the best. I think it's because it was really cold. I don't know. The atmosphere just was different. There were less clouds. A little cloudy in Texas.
Okay, and I'm going to share something here really quick, guys. I found a short example of a Vidicon burn of a burned Vidicon screen. For us old geezers like myself, I'm sure you guys are going to recognize this, but for anybody young, it's probably going to be the first time you see something like it. And where is it?
Yeah, and Matt G agrees with me. Jill did say Mexico.
So this is what it used to look like when cameras used what was called a Vidicon tube, and whenever you had a bright light in front of it, and it was like that for many decades, black and white and color. So that was the reason why they were phased out. There we go. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate that. And obviously they were not high definition, but yeah, they used to use them back in the old days. And I'm imagining they probably used them a lot during the NASA days because that was the 60s when this show was made. So here's what they have where the Robinsons have just finished eating dinner, and Hapgood is telling them that he needs to run and go get ready for his flight in the morning. And he figures that he should have enough solar energy saved up inside the batteries. And here's where we get the discussion where John and Maureen would like for him to take the kids with him. And he says the
But,
space don't take. Go ahead, Jill.
but at least he's self-aware that he shouldn't be taking these kids.
He is, and he even says the space don't take kindly to kids. And I'm sure he knows that the Robinsons they already realize that.
Yeah, he says that space don't take too kindly to family outings.
Exactly.
But he's right.
And Yes, and we have, and you notice that even though he turns them down on their offer, which which shows that there's no ill will. That Professor Robinson even says after that, he says, "Well, I have some star charts that will help you." So they're not upset that he said no, and they're still willing to help him. So I thought that was very cool. That's another addition I thought was really nice. There's no animosity, but Don
No
doesn't seem to.
animosity, but yet they knock his ass out.
Well,
Yeah,
Don is the
Don doesn't
Don
feel
took
the
it
same
differently,
way.
right? Don doesn't feel the same way. And is the one taking who takes it differently. Don is, as you guys will see more in the series, Don has a little bit of shorter fuse than
Yeah,
Professor
Don
Robinson
can be
does.
a hothead at times, actually.
Well, he's younger and he's not as wise as Professor Robinson.
Yeah, he's more impulsive, I would say.
Yeah, which is why he's not in charge, which is a good thing. And we noticed that in the last episode too, the Hungry Sea, where him and Professor Robinson were arguing.
Yes.
So here we get, considering this is a Western episode, you've got to have our fist fight. And it's not very much, but it is there. So we get a little fist fight here between Don and Hapgood.
I
And
love this scene.
right, and of course Judy decides to get involved and hits him on the head with the pan. But before he passes out, but he said, "But I still ain't gonna take them kids." And then he finally officially passes out.
Yeah, I was laughing my butt off when I saw that scene. That's a good scene.
And now we cut back to Traveling Man, and it looks like Will did not finish totally decontaminating the ship. So we have these alien spores or life forms or whatever they are. They seem to be moving and completely covering the ship. I don't know if they're eating it or not, but they seem to be adhered and stuck to it.
Well, they
And then
kept talking about metal eating creatures that would have followed.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I thought the plant creatures or whatever the hell they are were really cool looking. They were kind of probably one of the highlights for me of the episode, quite frankly, because they were pretty well done actually.
Yes. And here we have where it looks like, I'm guessing, the Robinsons gave one of their laser guns to Hapgood, because that laser gun that he had, they didn't establish that he already had one before he met them. So I'm guessing they may have given him one for his trip. And it doesn't, they're not showing yet exactly what he's doing with it. But here we have Dr. Smith basically trying to connive and tell him that he doesn't want to take the kids with him. In fact, he even says the kids are precocious brats.
Yeah, that, and he also pretends that he was kidnapped instead of, trying to sabotage the ship and blow it up.
Yes, he does. Right, he's just a hapless victim, of course.
I like Hap Good's comeback here, though. They're just normal kids. That's all. I thought that
Right,
was a great line. Great line.
right. No, well, not only does he already like the kids, but you could tell he doesn't completely trust Dr. Smith.
Yeah,
He's barely just met Dr. Smith, but he knows there's something off about him, obviously.
I think he even likes Don more than Dr. Smith, even though Don punched him in the head.
Well, he does. Well, they both laugh it off here.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah, which is a good thing too. That's another thing I like about it. Once again, there's no animosity, no hatred between the two.
He's a very likable character. That's what saves the episode for me. In spite of some of the inconsistent writing, Warren Oates does a really good job with his character.
I completely agree. And here's where, like, what Jill was talking about, where he said he was literally shanghaied. Of course, as we all know, which is not the truth. President of the Zachary Smith Engineering Corporation, which is also far from the truth.
This is funny.
And he has degrees in both medicine and science. But he basically tells him, "Nope, traveling man takes no passengers." And here's where we find out what he was doing with the laser gun. He's carving his name in stone, and I
That's
thought
a
that's
good
kind
one.
of funny. I don't know these days if that's acceptable, because you really shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. Because now we have people carving their name in the Colosseum in Greece and stuff like
Wow,
that. So it's
that's
horrible.
sad.
I'm sure Yeah, I'm sure you guys heard about that.
No, I didn't, but I think carving your name in a, like just an average rock is a little less harmful than calling carving it in the Colosseum. That's bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
somebody was.
people
that's
have been doing that for
unfortunate.
Don't
2,000
they
years.
don't they have guards around the Colosseum though to prevent that kind of stuff? You'd think they would.
Well, they have guards in the exteriors, but people are going to wander around and do whatever they can when there's nobody
Oh,
looking.
that's sad.
There was a rock formation in a, I can't remember which it was one of the national parks here in the U.S. And there was an ancient rock formation that was very very old, and some guy went up there for a selfie and pushed it over.
Oh God.
So it does happen, unfortunately. So here is where Hapgood is talking with Don, and as you can see, they're friends. And they're both laughing, and he says, "Yeah, it was a pretty good fight." Even though he says he wishes he would have punched him harder. And and of course, like I said, Mr. Professor Robinson is not upset that he's not taking the kids, and he says, "You still want me to have that guidance system since I'm not taking the kids?" And he even says, "Absolutely, sure." Which is, I think it just shows what a great character he is. And now they're moving this device here, and he asked Professor Robinson asked Don if you want to give me a hand with this, and he says, "All right."
I kept
So they're
waiting for
using
them
a.
to explain what this device was for. Did they? I forget.
I don't think they did.
No, I don't think they ever did actually.
Because it looks cool. What is it?
It
It
does
is
look
What do you
cool,
cool.
and,
think?
and it does look heavy. And knowing Lost in Space, we will see it again. They tend to use their props multiple times.
I think the point of the device was though to just like knock Hapgood over,
Well, well, what
basically.
happened? Well, what happened was it was kind of twofold because when it slipped loose, and Hapgood saw it heading towards the ship, and he did jump in front of it and try to block it with his body.
True.
So it did knock him over. It did hurt him, but he was doing it for a good reason, which he could have
Mm,
easily stepped out of the way, but he
that's
chose
true.
not to. So
And
here's when
Maureen
we have.
finally gets her first important line in a long time.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I know, and she probably the actress too, June Lockhart. I'm sure was probably saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, she was underutilized a lot of the time, sadly.
But this was a good one. This was a good. This follows in the good faith that you were talking about that John was presenting to Hap. Good.
Yes, and here's where she tells him that Dr. Smith examined him and that his back should be fine by the next day. I don't know if I would trust Dr. Smith at this point. In fact, later on, they will establish that he's far from being a medical doctor and having any sort of experience. In fact, he's going to end up. He'll keep his without giving away too much spoilers. But throughout the series, he'll keep his technical knowledge, but he is definitely in no way a medical doctor. Even though in the first episode, they showed him giving physical exams to the Robinson family. But later on, that absolutely makes no sense because he has no physician experience, and he's not a. Even though he lied to Hapgood and said that he was, he really doesn't.
Well,
So here we have.
it doesn't
Go ahead,
really.
Jill.
It's not really that inconsistent because he was already a spy to begin with, so he was just pretending to be a doctor. Or
Exactly right.
whatever he
Well,
is.
even at this point, right? Even at this point, the Robinsons didn't really know that he's not telling the truth either. And I wanted to cover this really quick. Here's some production note. Day 6, Tuesday, September 14th. It was supposed to be the last day of filming, but the end was nowhere in sight. On the schedule for stage 6, the cliffhanger and tie into the next episode, My Friend Mr. Nobody, and the scenes inside Traveling Man. Ganser filmed from 8 a.m. to 7:17 p.m., covering 7 pages from the script. They were now 2.5 days behind. The next episode to film was My Friend Mr. Nobody, and that was pushed back. Irwin Allen was not happy, and his frequent visits to the set made that clear to everyone involved in the production. The director was trying too hard to create art. To Allen's thinking, the crew and the cast were behaving as co conspirators. Marta Kristen, who plays Judy, recounted when Irwin came to the set, you knew where you were in trouble. He would come to the set if a director was running late. He would say, "Time is money! Time is money!" And he would get upset, and people would go, "Oh no, Irwin is here." And June and Guy, after a while, would just walk away.
Hmm.
Paul Sezupnovich concurred and says Irwin did not know how to handle people. So many times we would have situations and stress. Urban would always tell people, "Time is money, time is money," and it would get to them. I would have to smooth things over with the people Irwin had ticked off. People always said I managed to calm the waters and keep people happy, especially the women. So I guess that was a little easier. The women were easy, and the men would just leave. I guess I figured it's better than an argument.
Uh,
It's interesting because Irwin Allen was nothing like Gene Roddenberry. That's definite for sure. Their personalities were quite different. So here's where we have where Will and Penny are walking with Hapgood back
Wow.
to the ship, and he's telling them more big tales that he had. In fact, he had promised Will earlier that he would tell him more tales when Will was decontaminating the ship. So now we're talking more about it, and they're basically going to go help him say goodbye and pack up for his trip back to space or Earth at this point. I think he is at this point deciding to go back to Earth. And here's where they're going to be approaching the ship, and this is where they're going to find out that apparently Will did not decontaminate it enough. How are we doing on the chats, Gorilla?
I got a couple of them here.
Yeah, if you could cover it, I appreciate it. I want to make sure I balance it out. I appreciate it.
All right, Edge of Time says they should make New Mexico a state. And Maggie says
Yeah.
they should. LOL. Uh,
I thought it
Hunter
was.
says plant creatures were the
It
best
is.
part. LOL. And Matt's laughing. And it says, I am doing okay today. Glad you guys are. Last night into today, comic skater Shane Davis ran a 11-hour stream. It was a loop of him eating chips over and over again. LOL. Brilliant with goofy music.
Wow, I don't know who could watch that. I can't stand watching people eat or listening to it. But okay,
Yeah.
maybe some people are into that thing.
For 11 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I know
don't
it.
think I wouldn't spend 11 hours of my life watching somebody eat potato chips.
Well, I
No.
was gonna
And
do.
it's not even a real time of him eating potato chips. It's a loop.
A
Well,
loop.
yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Well,
Like,
well, I did one there where it says, "What's it like in the mind of a gorilla?" And I sat there and played yakety sax. I was just gonna put it on and go to bed and then end the stream and I woke back up. But I thought, nah, I'll just piss people off. So I only did it for like 2 minutes.
Isn't that
Uh,
copyrighted?
Yakety sax, no.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains
Yeah,
why Benny Hill used it over and over, I guess.
yeah, people use it all the time. I hear it all the time. Then Matt G says, in the background, I'd pay Doomcock to do something like that. LOL. Make the mods stay there and watch DC eat chips. Jill's mind is melt.
I think I would not agree to do that.
Hey,
Doomcock
Adding
does
another
that?
wrench.
yeah,
I think Joe
Huh?
might just leave after a certain point if Doomcock
Yeah.
did nothing but eat chips all night.
Hail,
Yeah.
Spidey,
Yeah.
good to see you.
yeah. Hey, Spider,
Hey,
how's it
Canadian
going?
Spider-Man. Yeah,
Hey,
I love
Spidey.
Doomcock, but not no. No,
Well, when
thank
it comes to eating chips, I'd rather eat them myself than watch somebody else eat them.
you. Mhm.
Well, for me,
Yeah,
it's not just watching either. If I'm on a stream and I can hear people smacking or crunching, I tune out. I think it's very rude.
yeah. And Phantom Boomer says Spidey, and Edge Time says I cannot stop masticating, whatever the hell that means.
That means chewing.
Anytime, what did I tell you about using big words around me here?
Danger,
That
danger.
that,
Watch
that means
out. A
chewing.
gorilla might mispronounce. Be
Yes,
careful.
I was thinking the same thing. Be very careful.
Yeah, I had to read it twice there because I don't even know what that means, masticating.
Basically, that means chewing your food.
Oh, and hail to you, Jill. Good day, said Phantom Boomer and Matt G. Matt G says, and so would this guy. Man, Canadian Spider-Man, hello. Hello, another DC wrench. And Canadian Spider-Man says, good to see you, Edge. Herc says, hello. Canadian says,
What a
hashtag
great turnout.
respect we reject. Hungry says, hola, Spidey. And Canadian says, Hungry, great to see you and Herc.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, great turnout, you guys. I really appreciate it. This is a blast. So thank you. It helps me feel a lot better. So here we have Hapgood and the kid. Kids arrive back to Traveling Man when they find out that it's surrounded by all these alien spores, and they seem to be moving and devouring. And as you can see by the subtitles, there's a chittering sound, so they're also chittering, whatever chittering means.
Yeah. Where's all those guns that they're wanting to grab earlier in the episode?
The
Well, yeah,
guns, you're right.
Well,
Hapgood had the one gun that he was carving his name into the rock.
yeah. So why didn't Hapgood start shooting the plant immediately?
Well, I don't know if he was necessarily carrying it now during because that was an earlier scene. So I didn't
Yep.
when
But
he was talking to the kids and they were walking, I didn't see it attached to his belt or anything.
yeah, but you wouldn't think he would have gone back to the Jupiter 2 and dropped it off with Dawn or something, right?
Yeah, why wouldn't a cowboy carry his
You
sidearm
think?
with him?
Yeah,
You think he
exactly.
would?
I
Yeah,
would have thought he
like a
would have kept it
holster.
with him.
Yeah, if he had like a holster or something. But if you didn't have a holster and you don't have any pockets,
Well, a lot of those old movies, they just, shove the gun down the front of their pants, which always seemed like a very risky maneuver to me,
Yeah.
but you do see it over and over again.
Now I'm not exactly complaining, but in the first 5 episodes, they put Penny as more of a careful kid who didn't follow Will around, but now she's just the kid who follows Will around.
right? Well, yeah, you think the first thing he would tell them is, "Okay, you guys stand back, stay away,"
Well,
because he doesn't know what to
yeah,
expect.
there's another part of the episode I have a problem with. Would Will, and especially Will, like Will's a really smart little lad, right? He's not going to walk up to some alien creature that's thrashing around doing hell knows what and just walk right up to it. Like, if anything, he'd be protective of Penny and he'd say, stay back, let's not get too close to this thing, right? But they just wander right into the midst of it, and it's like, oh, that's all good. It'll work out
Yeah,
well.
right. This looks like fun.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another part of the episode. I thought this was very cool though when this plant thing swallows Penny. That was
Right.
pretty funny. I
Penny
was like,
accidentally,
holy moly.
right, Penny accidentally stumbles into what's almost like a giant Venus flytrap.
Yeah, it
So
was kind of
it
cool.
encloses her, and Hapgood
Yeah, it
sees that
looks
and
great.
immediately it does. It looks really great, and it looks really. If you're a kid, it looks really spooky.
And it's very well done. And I almost, thought, gee, I hope she didn't get hurt. Like it looked like she really plunged down there like drastically fast. And I'm thinking, man, that might have been a little bit dangerous.
So fortunately, Hapgood grabs the decontaminator and starts spraying the fog around them, which kills the spores.
Well, he
And with
did need
that,
the laser gun.
they were able to pull Penny out of the mouth of that plant, and she seemed to be okay. He even asked her if she's all right, and she said yes.
So he used chemical warfare against the hostile species.
I guess so. You could say that.
He
But
violated
apparently,
Geneva Convention.
back at the camp, they heard Penny scream. So now we have the professor and Mrs. Robinson. I should John and Maureen and Don racing to the rescue because they heard her scream. So that's the scene we're going to get next when they come in. Of course, they're going to wonder what's going on. But then they see that everything's under control.
So I'm guessing the camp can't be that far away from where Hapgood landed if they could hear Penny scream, because I wouldn't think she was quite that loud. Like it's not like they could be a mile away or something.
Yes, exactly right. And ooh, apparently, sorry, I'm waiting for Jill to get back, so we need to fill some sound here.
All right, let's read chat.
How are we doing on the chat? Sorry.
Yeah, Maggie says, look at what I said above, LO Canadian Spider-Man. Would you sign up for that? Spidey says, it's going down to freezing here, PvP. Of course, I planted the garden today. Figures.
Oh, Spidey, I gotta say, you planted too early. I had one of my grandfathers who was very good at gardening and knew exactly. He always said, wait until the third week in May before you plant your garden, whether it's flowers, veggies, whatever, because usually by the third week in May, you're not going to get killer frost, right?
Yeah. Well,
But
what you
it's too early.
what you can do if you're not expecting moisture, just go throw some blankets over your plants, or if you are expecting moisture, tarp. That's all
Yeah,
you gotta
Well,
do.
right,
if
but you
you
got to make sure you don't block them from the sun. 'Cause that'll kill them too. They need the
Well,
no,
light.
but
no,
if you cover them overnight, you might be safe. Yeah,
yeah, cover them overnight to take the covers off during the
Yes.
day.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we
but
have to
still,
do here.
my granddad, who grew fantastic veggies, always would say, "Wait till the third week in May, and you'll probably be safe." And he pretty much was right.
Ours here is late April here, but we're farther south.
Oh,
Which
you
reminds me,
guys, yeah, definitely.
I gotta go see if we can see the Northern Lights tonight.
Well,
Canadian Spider-Man.
that's where the term 420 came from. That's actually supposed to be planting day.
Oh, I've heard a couple different references to that.
Well, what I'm saying is April 20th has been planting day for a few centuries. The farmers used to. You can look at the Farmer's Almanac, but now the term is recognized for because of pot. But when people can say, well, what does that have to do with pot? Is because they say, well, people who grew pot would plant it on April 20th because that's also when you plant your tomatoes and everything else.
The thing is, we're quite a bit further north here, so it's good to wait like that extra month, really.
Right. That also depends on where you're at. Like you guys were saying, if you're in an area where it's tended to be frosty, you're going to wait. Like I'm in California, so that is the prime time to plant is
Yeah,
late
like
April.
some years we'll have nice warm days by like the first or second week in April, and other years like so far this year, like the last week, it's gotten really cold again. Like I've started putting my winter jacket back on when I go to work in the morning, so
Yep.
it can really vary quite a bit up here.
Yeah. Canadian Spider Man says, "Count me in,"
Okay,
and then
hold on a minute, Gorilla. I have a note here I wanted to mention here from the book. They filmed from 8 a.m. until the frying pan landed on Hapgood's head at 6:56 p.m. The director Ganser held at 2.5 days behind. Day 9, Friday, September 17th. Work resumed at 8 a.m. on stage 11, with Ganser taking until 3:40 p.m. to film the last of the remaining script pages. It was finally a wrap. Having taken 8.5 days to film what was supposed to be a 6-day production, Alvin Ganser was not asked to return for future assignments on Lost in Space. With his friend and colleague Buck Houghton preparing to exit the series, it isn't likely Ganser would have asked for further work anyway. He moved on to The Man from Uncle. Cimarron Strip, Ironside, Hawaii Five-0. Ganser would also direct 14 episodes of Policewoman in the late 1970s before retiring. Okay, go ahead, Gorilla.
all right. Spider Man says, "Good to see you, gorillas." Well, it's good to see you too, Canadian. Edge of
Absolutely.
Time says, "Good to see you, Spidey." Then Canadian Spider Man says, "As a man, I would never ever put a gun in front of down the front of my pants. I'd
Same
rather
here,
hold
yes.
it."
I want to remain a man, I'll put it that way. And there are
Uh,
videos on YouTube where people make that mistake.
then Luna says, "Howdy, Canada, Spider Man."
Yeah, he is back in Canada. In fact, I saw you posting there, Spidey, where you had a nice 420 bonfire with your brother. That sounds
Yeah,
great. I'm glad you were able to enjoy it with your family.
yeah. And Edge of Time says, "The only thing worse than people drinking on screen is when they don't. I watched an hour of Elon Musk speaking with Cottonmouth, yet there was an unopened water sitting in front of him."
I guess when he gets distracted and he goes on a rant, there's just no stopping him. You know what? That's funny because on the other hand, I like when they get people like I like to watch Congress when they're grilling people with questions, or whenever you see somebody squirming, or when they're lying, they have that bottle of water and they're taking a sip from it every 5 seconds. Now close the lid, tighten the lid, and then 2 seconds later they'll open the lid, take another sip, close the lid, tighten it, and same thing, rinse and repeat. That bottle's going back and forth to the mouth. So if Elon Musk by not drinking the water shows that he was confident, in my opinion. And I haven't heard the term cottonmouth in a while, so I do have to say that. So okay, here we have where the Robinsons, mom and dad arrive. Like I said, they heard Penny scream, but they see that everything's been taken care of and they're okay. And this is where Will realizes that he guesses he didn't contaminate Traveling Man as good as he should have. But when you think about it, him and Hapgood left the ship at the same time to head over to the Jupiter too. So Hapgood should have also been just as equal to blame because he could have told Will that, hey, you didn't get all of it, or you need to stay behind and get the whole thing, including underneath. But of course, we're not going to go into that sort of detail. And and here we have where he says that is just still willing. Now he says that he's willing to take the kids if they're still willing to entrust them to me. So he's changed his mind because he cares about the kids, which is a good thing. And he's willing to sacrifice, I guess, that little extra room that he has in the ship, which that's extremely extremely generous. And of course, John and Marine are happy to hear that. Well, I don't know if they're really happy, but they don't want to see the kids go, but they are glad that he's willing to take the kids with him, which causes Dr. Smith to go into hyperdrive. So this is where I was mentioning earlier that they were filming down below, where Dr. Smith, with his conniving ways, is basically using reverse psychology on the kids, telling them that their parents really don't want them to go, but the parents that are asking them to go anyway, and that it's really going to break their parents' heart. So what he's
This,
doing is
yeah,
go ahead, Jill.
this is another instance where it seems a little far fetched for such intelligent children to be convinced of this.
4, 5, 6.
Right, you figure by now they would know not to trust anything he says,
Hmm.
right? And
Right, if they just met him, maybe.
yes. And so Penny says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "What do you? Yes, what do you mean?" Doctor Smith says, "Will." And here's where he's saying pretty much where, well, normal kids could probably handle this, so he's trying to manipulate them into basically running away or
Also,
hiding.
good night to Edge of Time.
Good night, Edge of Time. Thank you for coming in and spending time with us. I really appreciate that. And as a reminder, if you guys like this, please consider hitting the like button. And if you haven't subbed to my channel, give it a chance. I've got other things on there that may interest you. So Dr. Smith has put his plan in motion. He's outside the Jupiter 2 with the robot, and he's pretty much says everything should go down right about now. And he said, as he says that, June is inside telling Professor Robinson that she can't find the children, that maybe they're over Hapgood's ship. But nope, Hapgood is not with them, and he's getting ready. He's getting his ship set up to leave, and he says, I may never get off this piece of real estate. So we get a little bit of exposition here where he's not quite sure where he wants to go. That if he goes back to Earth, maybe he'll get his own plot of land. But he calls it a landing pad. Yep, I'm going to sit down right alongside Alpha Control and hand him over. So I
Hello
think this is.
in the chat to Sean Carter.
Hello,
Hi,
Sean.
Sean.
Welcome.
Hi, Sean.
Good to see you, Sean. This scene, this exposition with Hapgood, it would remind me of, is it like filler? It's almost like they said, we don't have enough to complete this episode, so stretch it out, stretch it out. So what happens is they do find the kids. The kids were hiding, just like Dr. Smith had convinced them, and they even tell Mom and Dad, "You didn't really want us to go, did you?" And of course, Mom and Dad really didn't. But then by the time they realize is going on, it looks like Hapgood's already on his way out to space and he's heading back. So, and we get, of course, our flashback to his carving a name on the rock. And this is the scene that I mentioned earlier. This is the scene that got the director in trouble because he wanted the scene from up high where they had to put the camera on the crane.
That's quite
and
up high.
It is up high, and it's a good scene. It's a good ending shot.
I love this scene. Yeah, I thought it was a great scene right at the end of the episode.
Yeah, it really highlights the desolation and desperation.
Well, it also highlights that Dr. Smith, he's like so tiny, tiny, tiny in this shot, right? So it's like obviously Hapgood is like, 100 miles above by now. And it's like, Smith, you're nowhere, man.
Right. And it's funny, you can't leave me here. You can't leave me here.
I
All
thought it
that
was
manipulating
hilarious.
and conniving you did for nothing.
hmm
So here we have Hapgood talking to them over the radio. And as you can see, he's wearing an older, similar suit to what they had. But as you can, it is what I do like is that the suit is different than what they were wearing, showing that it is about 20-year difference. So I like
Yeah,
that they went through that much effort.
it looks older. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. So now he's pondering where he's going to be headed, and he decides that he's probably not going to head back to Earth. This reminds me here, by the way, of Gilligan's Island, where somebody lands on the island and they say, "Will you please help rescue us?" And the person always leaves and says, "Sure, I'll send back help." And for some reason, they never seem to get off that island. So this kind of reminds you of a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, well, Hapgood struck me in this episode as kind of a restless wanderer type of character. So I could never see him actually wanting to go back to Earth, really.
Yep, he seems to like where he's at and what he does,
Yeah, he likes his adventures out in the galaxy, right?
which is another good reason why the kids. It's a good thing they didn't go with them.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So we have
absolutely. That's what I was saying from the beginning.
right. So here we have where Hapgood is off and he's headed out, and we're gonna cut to the next day where it looks like they're doing some drilling. And I'm not sure if they say exactly what they're drilling for. I don't know if it's for fuel or for what. But we have Professor Robinson there, and we have the kids standing there, and we'll go behind that rock, yes, sir. And of course, this is our open cliffhanger for next week's episode. And by the way, this is a fantastic cliffhanger too. So basically, we get that explosion right there with Penny standing right next to it, and Professor Robinson diving for her to protect her from the explosion.
Well, true. It technically looks great, but who decides it's a great idea to test explosives but not tell the whole family what's going on and when and where the testing is supposed to happen?
Yeah, did they say whether he planned on it, the explosion, or was it unplanned?
Oh no, they. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll find out next week. Maybe they did, and Penny just forgot or something.
That's
Well,
true.
it's
Yeah,
kind.
definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't have her standing that close.
Well, the thing is, once again, it has to happen to make the episode happen, right?
Well, yeah. Well, you
In a
want the
way,
people to come.
you know.
That's what the point of the cliffhanger is. You want people to come back next week, so you want everybody to
Yeah,
go, "Oh, wow! I can't wait to see what happened. How did they get out of that?" Right?
yeah. But I mean, it's like kids don't always listen to their parents either, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that's what it is. That he did say, "I'm testing this important thing, and I'm trying to drill, and there may be explosives." And then she
I
was just like
I
doing
can't
crosswords
remember.
or something, not listening.
Actually, Jill, I can't remember. Like, I really should. I haven't watched this episode in a long time, but I think there might be a point in the episode where they kind of
Mhm.
mentioned that they just hadn't like planned to do this, but they ended up doing it anyway. So, but don't take my word for it. I could be totally wrong.
Well, I can't wait to find out next week.
Yeah,
It'll be good.
actually next week's episode is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series.
Wow.
It's the first. Well, I always thought Penny was a really cool character, but most of the writers for the series had no idea what to do with her, right? She was usually, way in the background, doing something that really didn't matter. And she never really got to shine as a character. And I always thought Angela Cartwright was a really great little actress back then. Like she was talented,
Yeah,
when
right.
you
Just give her a chimp or something.
well,
don't
that's
don't
the
let her
sad
have
thing,
any
right?
fun.
That's usually what happened, right? But
Mhm.
I want to mention the writer of this coming episode. Let me get the crew list, which you so awesomely provided. The writer's name of this next one, episode 7, is Jackson Gillis. He actually wrote 7 episodes for Lost in Space. And of the 7 episodes he wrote, 6 of them were actually centered around the character of Penny.
Very
he,
cool.
he was the one writer that seemed to really, figure out how good she could be as a character and how interesting she could be in a storyline. And he wrote some really good episodes based around Penny, and probably those are pretty much very. I don't think there's many others in the series that center around her character, right? And I think this next episode, well, it's in my top five. It's in my top five for sure.
Well,
Uh,
that's great because in the pilot they established both of the kids to be somewhat of academically inclined, and it's good to see her good to see that she's going to have a bit more to do.
Well, the thing is, it's more an examination. This next one, my friend Mr. Nobody, is more of an examination of sort of the imagination of a child, uh, because you sort of wonder at first if what Penny's experiencing is actually real, and then you kind of
Oh, don't give
realize
away
quite
too many
quick.
spoilers.
Yeah,
Well,
okay, I
actually,
won't.
no, that's great because that
Danger,
actually
danger.
follows with the pilot because the Will is shown to be more electronics and she likes Shakespeare, so she likes literary she likes literature, so it makes sense that her imagination will get the better of her sometimes.
Yeah,
And
Right.
that's a pretty good character
well,
development for her.
as a kid, Penny was one of my favorite characters in the
Mhm.
show because I was like kind of an introvert, shy introvert, and Penny always seemed to be kind of the sensitive one, the sensitive kid, whereas Will was the little adventurer, right? But Penny was like the thoughtful, introspective one, and the next episode really features that quite a bit. So anyway, yeah, I probably shouldn't give away spoilers, but I think it's a really excellent episode.
Yep. I'm excited. I can't wait for it. And as a reminder, everybody, I did put a poll in the chat. If you get a chance, please feel free to vote on what grade you would give this episode. And I'll be sharing that momentarily.
Yeah, I think I
Or you
voted
can vote in the
already.
chat if you'd like. And I'm not allowed to vote because I'm the one that put up the poll. But you guys are welcome to vote. You can either vote for those of you
Uh,
on the panel. You can vote in the chat, or you can vote here when I
I'm
ask
not
you your
seeing.
opinions.
I'm not seeing the poll actually, but I know I voted on it before the stream started, so
Let me see. It still seems to be there.
I'm not seeing it
So
on
Yeah.
my end, but
you
that's
might
cool.
you, after you vote, you can click hide poll. You may have done that,
I could have, yeah, I
but
probably
I'm
did
looking at it
actually.
and it seems to be there.
I voted
Yeah.
anyway, so it's all good.
Okay, okay. So let's start with
All
Gorilla.
right.
Gorilla, tell us what do you think about this episode? What grade would you give it? And tell us about your channel.
I swear I'm awake. I swear I'm awake. No, but no, I thought this was a really kind of just a boring Neanderthal episode. There's two things that
Neanderthal.
saved it
Okay.
from. Well,
Wait. You
maybe
mean
I'm using the wrong
meandering?
term.
I
I
don't
think
know
you
if
mean
half of
Yeah,
it was
meandering.
quite
maybe.
that bad.
Maybe I'm using the wrong
Yeah,
terminology. Maybe I'm thinking
Neanderthal.
60 years ahead.
Neanderthal is like a caveman. I think you mean
Well, I
meandering.
Oh,
guess
maybe I'm
some
thinking
people.
60 years ahead for the writing. But no,
Okay.
I was just kind of like bored trying to watch it and listen to it. I mean, Mister even then like there's things on it there. We got to see the creatures again, but we did get to see that guy Otis there get his get knocked out and hit with a frying pan. That saved it from an F. They had a few good moments that get laugh and all that, but other than that, I was just like over after the highs of the last 5 episodes. This one here is just it's that relaxing episode after you had the exciting episodes type deal.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm gonna give it like a C minus, C plus, or a C
Cool.
minus to a C. Like I was just bored, versus the highs we had the last few episodes there. But we did get the excitement of him getting knocked out and stuff like that. But I'm not
Thank
gonna
goodness.
go into nitpicking, and ruin it for everybody else.
Well, thank goodness Judy
Oh,
saved the
really?
day with the frying pan. And Gorilla, tell us about your channel.
Why not?
Ugh.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, for my channel there, I've been doing a lot of gaming lately. There, I've been doing my right, going through Rome Total War, playing different factions and all that. I did screw up and had to restart it, but so yeah, I've been doing a lot of that. There's 3 watch parties a week. Wednesdays as End of the Fucking World. We're on episodes 5 through 8. They're season 1. Then Saturdays, Babylon 5. We're almost done with season 4. Then we're going to go into season 5. And then on Sunday, we're watching some movie. It's about a house on the road there. So I'm assuming it's about an RV there. Though they do got some bad grammar there because they put the word road before house there. So
Oh, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing that. That's the last of Germ's '80s. Then we're going into my '80s picks after for in May there. Then I do Walton's reviews on Thursdays. Then lots of shorts coming up there. Probably I'll probably be doing a lot of shorts there.
Yeah, that meat you cooked on that last short looks delicious.
Oh, don't worry, it was.
Well, I'm not worried. The only I'm worried about is because I wasn't there to enjoy it with you.
Yeah. The only problem is I invited my boss over for supper one night. I cooked the same thing for him, and son of a bitch, the next day I was in the kitchen.
Oh well, you know you know your boss likes you, so that was a good idea, I think.
Yeah. Too bad the restaurant closed down.
Oh well, sorry to hear
Oh,
that.
that's not good.
And Jill, would you
Damn.
like to give us your review and tell us about your channel?
Sure. Actually, my review modified itself a bit after listening to you guys talk about this episode. At first, it was really jarring for me to see a Western infused into the science fiction because Westerns really aren't my genre. So seeing a literal cowboy astronaut just was really out of place for me. But given the context of the times and how popular westerns were, I can kind of give it a pass. And even though there's much more sophisticated kind of science fiction now, I realize that Lost in Space was still kind of pioneering in having a more thoughtful kind of science fiction. So give it some points for that. And I knew from the very beginning that this is science fantasy, not science fiction, but I can't help but think about those kind of things and how the microbes and the bacteria and the fungi are getting together and making babies. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna have to live in this universe where that kind of thing can happen, which would be absolutely terrifying if that were a thing that could actually happen. Then
That's
Oh yeah.
inside your
hilarious.
own body, you could just have monsters sprouting out of yourself. But just just
Oh,
letting that
jeez.
Uh,
happen.
hey, that happened twice.
Well,
Amen.
and you're
or
right
for me,
about
it
that.
happened twice.
And I really loved the first Alien and Derelict. That was cool because there were creatures who piloted the ships and they were electrical based on and they seemed intelligent enough to speak,
Oops.
uh even though Smith ruined Will's attempt at communication. But these creatures, they're just straight monsters, but that's okay. I, I've got to modify my outlook on the show, I suppose. I don't know.
It is different,
I need
right?
to watch. I need to watch more episodes to figure out how I feel about this.
Right. It
Jill,
is different. It's not
Mhm.
exactly Star Trek. So yes, I
Yes,
appreciate your
TVP.
patience and understanding, Jill.
I'd just like to tell Jill to be patient. This was a weaker one for me as well this week, but the next one is an absolutely great episode. So I think that will restore your faith again.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I did like about the episode was that the cowboy, he knew he wasn't the right guy to take these kids, but he eventually caved because of how attached he was growing to the family. So at least he was kind of a believable character, despite having a over cartoon kind of, not cartoony, but like um expressive accent and everything.
Right.
So I did like that. And in the end, it's obvious that he never really wanted to go back to Earth. And ultimately, his interests were just not aligned with going back home, even if that's what John and Maureen wanted. And he knew it'd be wrong to break up the family. It was still a fun time, but some of the stuff took me out of it, like the ballast tank. But then other things brought me back in, like the red dwarfs you're talking about or the Viticon films. So I do realize they're still trying to insert some real science into this, which I do appreciate. And so I give this episode, I'm going to give it a B minus or maybe a C plus. I'm fluctuating between those two. And
Nice.
so, yeah.
And tell us about your channel, Jill. I appreciate that review.
Right. And my daughter is calling me. I'm sorry that I had to
That's okay. We can talk to PvP
pause
while you go.
quite a bit.
Go take care of
But
your emergency.
no, but first, yeah, no, my channel is Antiderivative Jill. I talk more about science fiction. I try to talk about the good science fiction, but sometimes we'll talk about other stuff. And check me out tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about the episode Who Mourns for Adonis or Adonias, however you want to pronounce it. Great. Tomorrow at noon.
Looks like you got a crowd cheering you on there. Sounds like Jill, so that's great. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
yes,
got the
everybody
feeling there was an emergency happening there.
yes, everybody do check out Jill's channel. It's fantastic. PvP, would you like to give us your review and tell us about your channel?
Well, my review.
And by the way, hold on just a second. I wanted to say real quick, welcome, Sean. He
Hi.
came in while Jill was giving her review. Good to see you there, Sean. He's on
Hi,
the channel.
Sean.
Hey there.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, PvP.
Yeah, tell us about your review.
Well, I kind of had similar feelings to Jill on this one. Like the first 5 episodes are so darn good that they're like. Well, I think I gave probably pretty much all of them as like in an A level, or maybe one was a B plus, but they were pretty high. Uh, this one I had issues with. The only thing for me that really sells and saves this episode is Warren Oates' really solid, engaging performance. Because let's face it, Peter Packer didn't exactly write the most interesting character in the history of TV, but Warren took what he had in the script and the dialogue, and he ran with it and really sold it, right? And for me, he's the one thing in this episode that's really solid. For me, he carries it from beginning to end because overall, the Robinsons really aren't that important in this episode. They're almost kind of all of them are kind of secondary, and there's a lot of trouble, like Jill mentioned, with the science and stuff. A lot of it can be hit and miss for sure. And yeah, I just thought if they hadn't got a good actor like Warren Oates in this, and they'd had some mediocre guy, this episode could have really stunk bad, right? Because the writing, was, I think, kind of mediocre. Um, anyway, though, I guess pretty much that's about it. I just found it I don't hate it, but I can't like it a lot. It's kind of a meh kind of episode. It's kind of in the middle. There's not a lot that really goes on when you think about it. It's just basically, our space cowboy lands, he interacts with the family, and there's not a lot that happens story wise, is there really? There's really not a lot. The whole thing is about, will he take somebody on the ship? Will it be the kids? Will it be, Smith? And the only kind of exciting little bit of sci-fi was kind of the weird plant creatures. But other than that moment, when that was kind of fun for a few minutes, there's really not, I don't think, a hell of a lot going on in here. Well, I guess Dawn getting punched out and Judy hitting Hapgood over the head with a frying pan was fun. But other than that, I just thought it was kind of a mediocre, kind of not that exciting episode. So to wrap it up, I give it a C plus.
Very cool. And tell us about your channel.
My channel is basically, as my avatar shows, kind of music based. I got a lot of music videos. I try to upload an album or two every week that I enjoy on the playlists, so other people can listen to them. And for the time being, that's pretty much where it's at right now.
Okay, very cool. And okay, and so Sean, how are you doing there? I'm sorry that it took a minute to get to you there.
Hey, wait a
no,
minute.
no, no.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm being called away by my daughter. She really wants to hear some Dr. Seuss, so I'm gonna go.
Go be a mommy.
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Jill.
Jill.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Jill.
See you tomorrow.
So yeah, I'm pretty ill right now, actually. So
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, that's
Oh,
not
yeah,
good.
thank you. Just a cold, So I took the night off. I didn't do my second job, but No, I just want to pop in and say hi, and actually thank you, Pop and Jill too, and Gorilla. Um, I need to get into this series. I haven't watched this one. I maybe seen a handful of them in my life, but
Uh-huh.
all the same, I want to just pop in and say thank you to you, Pop and Gorilla and PvP and everyone, Tony, because and Jill, you guys are bringing fun and goodness and positive things to YouTube, and I've found more and more that I don't watch the complaining videos, the hate watching stuff and all the bitterness of
Oh
Disney
yes.
sucks and
Oh
Star
yeah,
Trek,
I agree.
and yeah, and I'm just starving for positivity. So I want to thank you guys for giving that, and it's made me a happier person.
I'm
Oh,
just
I'm glad
wondering,
to hear
Sean.
that. And I agree, Sean. I don't like the ones that hate watch it just for clicks. That seems to be some of the biggest channels out there.
Yeah.
And
Are
so I totally agree, and I appreciate that.
are you
Well, I
on?
had to go on some complaints there a couple times there, but they're
Oh, for
No,
sure. I'm not saying
no, I'm
I'm not
talking.
saying it's
Yeah, I think he's talking about like the people that review like Picard and stuff. When they start saying this is a horrible show, so we're going to review how much we hate about it, and they do that only because they're getting clicks. I had that discussion with somebody on Twitter just the other day,
yeah.
so I know what it's like because they really don't have a a foot to stand on when they come up with their BS.
Yeah, and to be fair, I will watch some of them for a while, like I got to know that there's other people that feel like I do, which is gratifying, it's and of course like getting together and complaining about it on a panel, but while bringing up the good, that's fine too. I'm not saying we shouldn't gripe. It's fine,
Yes.
but I do really appreciate the balance here, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate it, Sean. I'm glad that you came on the panel and said hello, and I hope you do feel better soon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and you too, Grill, and everybody, Jill. It's great. I look forward to these streams. And then for a personal plug, I just dropped a little video tonight of viewer mail. So I haven't put out my second build series yet on my sci-fi model channel. But I did do a little video today where I'm showcasing the email sent by viewers.
Oh,
So I'm
very
showing.
nice.
Yeah, and two of the people I'm reviewing are two of our friends in the community. One is Herc 130. He sent me some awesome pictures of military aircraft that he's done among many of the stuff. And then Rob
Oh,
Altus. I don't know if y'all know who he is.
I'm
You
not
probably
really
have seen
familiar
him
with
in
them.
chats.
And there's a link to Sean's channel, everybody. Please check that out.
Oh, thanks, Joe. But yeah. So Herc, if you're there, hearing this or lurking or in a future thing, you're up there, buddy.
Okay, and okay, Jill did and PPP. I wanted to show this really quick. I have a behind the scenes photo from this episode that I wanted to share really quick. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. This was a publicity still taken for this episode, and it says because it portrayed a child in terror, CBS passed on the promotional picture provided by the studio of Penny trapped in one of the planets outside the small spaceship. A picture of Warren Oates was used in its place. So this is another example of the network saying no, that looks too violent and too scary. So you only see this here because, like I said, it was never broadcast and it was never published.
if it was never published, how'd you get a hold of it?
This book has behind the scenes photos. In fact, I'm looking at some right now of Will and Penny. By the way, Angela Cartwright, who plays Penny, she had a famous sister, Veronica Cartwright. They're both famous. So I'm looking at. In fact, I'll show these pictures next week. But it's Will and Penny and Veronica performing at the Hollywood Bowl. Will has his guitar out, and they're singing and they're doing promotionals for Lost in Space.
Why does that name sound far from who was Veronica Cartwright?
She's
She
done a
had
lot
a
of stuff
longer
as well.
career. Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
had a
actually has
longer
more
career.
of a yeah, she actually has more of a prolific career than her sister, Veronica
Yeah, it
Cartwright.
sounds very familiar.
Angela's probably famous for the Sound of Music. That's probably her biggest movie.
I think that was let's see, yeah, Angela's was yes, it was Sound of Music and Make Room for Daddy.
Yeah, She
But
did some good stuff, but she wasn't as prolific as her sister.
in fact,
Okay,
I'll give you.
it just rang a bell for some reason.
And Veronica Cartwright did some really good. And by the way, anybody see the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978? She was in that as well. She's the one at the very end where she went up to Donald Pleasance. I mean Donald Sutherland, and he
Ah,
held his mouth open, and she was screaming, and she was the only one that was still a human.
one of the best endings to a movie of all time.
Absolutely, and she did some a lot of television work. I'm looking at her stuff now. But I can't remember which movie it was, but there was a movie where she was in a small town and she worked in like a bar and she fought this man and it was a grueling fight scene between her and a man. It was an absolutely fantastic movie. Um, but I wanted to cover really quick before we get lost is I'm going to show the results of the poll that I put in the chat before I forget. Sometimes I seem to forget that. So this time I promise I will not do that. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and pop out the chat. Here we go. And I'll cover. I know it's getting late, guys, so I'll get this closed up here really quick. And there we are with our poll. So it says, what grade would you give Welcome Stranger? Nice, I like that. So we have 41% giving it an A plus to an A minus, 33 with a C plus to a C minus, B plus to a B minus, 25%, and nobody gave it a D plus to an F minus, which is I think is terrific. I love that. So thank you everybody for voting. I really appreciate it. Oh, and me myself personally, since I always seem to forget myself, I'm going to give the episode a B minus. I did like it, the same reasons that you guys did, and more notes. As PvP mentioned that he was a standout, and I think he helped this episode a lot. In less faithful hands, it may not have been quite as well. And of course, the first 5 episodes were so rollicking with adventure and with all the cliffhangers and excitement and special effects. It's you can't always match that. So there's going to be eventually where you have some like a roller coaster. You're going to have lows and highs. But I think maybe next week will make up for that.
Yeah, this episode was kind of more of a slow pace, kind of,
Character
kind of a
driven,
walk in the park compared to the first five, right? So,
right?
but I still
Character driven, they
enjoyed it.
call
I
it,
still like
right?
it. It's just not quite at the same level. That's all.
Right. Character driven.
By the way, I just wanted, I tried to find something, a website where Sean could watch Lost in Space if he wants, but I haven't found anything. I
Well,
tried one that I
I got
used to
you
Oh
covered.
watch,
yeah.
but
In a
it said the site wasn't safe, so I don't want to recommend that. So,
Well, yeah, but remember the other day on I think it was Hungry Boy said that you can get it on archive.org.
is
I
it
think
on
he said
archive? Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
Hungry Boy mentioned that on Twitter.
I think there was a link, but I don't have it. Damn.
If you go to
Here, just
archive.org, you should be able to find it.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. I thing is,
here,
I'm on my phone and I can't click away to go look.
have an
Okay,
ad
gotcha.
blocker, but use this one. You'll need an ad blocker though.
Yeah, and PvP, did you install that app yet that Gorilla sent you last month?
No, can you post it again, Gorilla, please? I seem to have
Send it. Well, send it.
I
Don't send it here.
I
Send it to Twitter.
yeah, I copy and pasted the damn thing and I've lost it somehow because I'm so bloody disorganized
Send it
sometimes.
to the stream group chat. And that way he can see it in there.
Yeah, if you want to put in the group chat on Twitter again, Gorilla, I'd really appreciate it because I can be such an idiot sometimes. I
And I
forget
want
to
to,
do stuff.
before we close this up, I do want to try to, because there were some chats we accidentally missed over when I was promoting.
I do urge
Okay,
Sean to watch it though because it's a really fun show. Lost in
Oh
Space.
yeah,
Edge of Time
I
says, I
definitely
wonder
will.
what Seismet Elon was on, but maybe he just smoked 2 joints. I think doesn't he admit that he smokes pot? I don't think he keeps out a. I don't think he hides that fact.
Yeah, I think
Canadian
he's mentioned
Spider-Man.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, Canadian Spider-Man says, good to see you, Lemon Pie. What a good series. Edge of Time says, my internet is spotty. Have fun. I will catch you all later. Well, I'm glad Edge of Time stopped streaming. Canadian Spider-Man says, I highly recommend it, Edge of Time. And Canadian Spider-Man says, see you next time, eh? And there's Edge of Time there with his greetings. Sean Carter says, there's Sean. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm so behind on the chat. Hungry Boy says, night, Edge of Time. And Hungry Boy says, hiya, Sean Carter. And Sean says, hi, Hungry. Sean Carter says, hello, CSM. Lemon Pie says, greetings, Sean. And Sean says, hi, lemon pie. And Hungry Boy says, Mr. Nobody is a top 10 for me. All right, then we're going to have that next week, Hungry Boy. I hope you can make it. And Hungry Boy also says, no spoilers, but it really hit me hard as a kid. And that's me plugging Gorilla's channel. Canadian Spider-Man says, Jill, when are you streaming tomorrow? I was thinking of doing a bonfire stream tomorrow evening, perhaps. I know she does it around noon Central Time, her time, unless she has a
Yeah,
stream after that tomorrow evening. That I don't know.
she does it early because I can never watch it because I'm always at work by then. So
Yeah. And Canadian Spider-Man says, hello, Sean Carter. And I drilled, there it is. There's her
there
response,
you
noon
go.
Central Time. And Lemon Pie says, Canadian Spider-Man doesn't use maple syrup for his webs. No, no. And Matt G says, LOL. And Hungry Boy says, Jill's ideas are better than the episode. Yes, I completely agree. LOL says Matt G. Oops. And there's me flagging Sean's channel. Check out Sean's channel, everybody. And Canadian Spider-Man says, Rob Altus and Herc 130 are solid. They've been around Doomcock's chat for quite a while. Oh, that's probably why I haven't heard of. I know who Herc is, but I don't know who Rob is. And Hungry Boy says, gotta run, guys. Fabulous stream. Great perspectives. Thank you, Hungry Boy. Thank you for joining us. And I hope to see you next week. And then Pie says, bye, Hungry. Okay, good. Officially caught up on the chat. All right. And I wanted to thank everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us. And thank you for being here. And if you're listening to this on the rerun, I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider hitting the like button and leave some comments down below if you have any suggestions of what I could do with my channel. Even if you have negative suggestions, I'm open for any kind of criticism. So I love honesty above all else.
As long as it's not mean.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Constructive, exactly.
And I appreciate everybody on the panel. Jill's gone now, but thank you all for being here. And Sean, thank you for stopping in. I hope
not
you
a
get
problem.
better soon.
Hey, thanks for letting me in. I really appreciate it, even though I don't have anything to contribute.
Oh no, you
Oh, it's
being here is
okay.
just enough. No, that's why I put the link in the chat. It's just being here is enough. Your presence is more than appreciated.
I'd
So
so
with that,
highly recommend to Sean though to watch the episodes on the link that Gorilla sent. I know you've got a little bit of catching up to do since we're going to be doing episode 7 next week, but it's well worth it. It's got a lot of really good episodes, and it's a fun show. So, I
Yeah,
hope you check
I
it out.
think I will. I copied the link and I'll check them out. And it's probably something I should just do and put on in the background while I'm working during the day because I do work 2 jobs.
Oh, okay.
right, well, that's okay because I'd rather have you not watch it than listen to it in the background.
Yeah,
Oh, I
if you
can
can,
multi-listen.
if you
Yeah,
can
but I'm saying
actually
there's a difference
watch
between
it,
listening and watching. It's it's not a
yeah,
radio show,
you
but
really need to watch it because it's a very
but
cool
that's
looking,
okay. I understand
really
you're
Yeah.
cool
busy.
looking series. So,
Well, I'll give it a shot. Sometimes I have some downtime in the day, so I'll just pop my phone on,
No
have it
hurry.
right there, and
No
and
hurry.
and watch it. But yeah, I do work. I work 2 jobs plus I'm trying to get my channel going, and so
Yeah.
there's and Pop, you give us so much good stuff to watch, and I got a lot of homework to do.
Oh well, thank you. Oh, that reminds me. I almost forgot. Tomorrow I'll be on Jill's channel for Who Mourned for Adonis at around noon Central Time, and tomorrow night on my horror sci-fi review, we're going to be covering the movie The Howling from
speaking of that,
1981.
I have no way to watch that because I can't remember the
It's
links that you.
the links are in my community tabs. We've been sending them out every week. The only reason
Oh,
why I didn't send it out for the last community tab is because I had to post out from my phone. But
I
all
actually
those,
looked on there and I couldn't find it.
yeah, the old polls are still there, aren't they?
I didn't see
From
them when
previous
I
weeks.
checked before I went to work today. Actually, Pop, and I wasn't finding them. Let me
I'm
take a
looking
quick
now.
look here. Community.
Yeah, my old polls are there. There's the Tremors poll, the Incredible Shrinking
I see
Man.
the poll, but I don't see any links to anything.
No, it's down below every one of those in the chat, in the comment section.
Not finding it. Nope, not finding any links at all on the community page.
Okay, I'm on the community page now.
Maybe they
And
disappear or something.
I'm clicking below Tremors, and there's the links. Right below
Where?
Tremors, if you click on the right below like the picture of Tremors, right below where it says comments, you click on that, and there's the links at the top.
Yeah, but
Now let me
I
try
have
the
to.
next one.
I don't see any links anywhere. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing
Now
them.
I'm on the big poster for the Incredible Shrinking Man. I'm clicking on the comment section below that, and there's the links at the top right there. Oop, not on that one, but you will find it. Okay, are you looking at my page now? My
Yeah, I'm
community
looking at
section.
community.
Okay, go to the. Do you see the big poster for Tremors?
I do. Okay,
Do
I'll
you see
click on
below that
that.
where it says 5 comments?
Oh, okay. So these are the ones here where you put soap and movies, one, two, three,
Yeah,
and archive.
yeah,
Okay, I got it now. Okay.
yeah. Those are the
Yeah,
links. It's the
I
same
just
ones
didn't
every week.
realize.
Nothing has changed. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was under Tremors. Okay, I got it now.
Well, it's I usually put it under every link. It's just for last week as I was on my phone posting. But if you're
Mm.
ever in doubt, just go to torrent. Download the torrent if you're ever in doubt. Because they're
Yeah.
all that's where I get mine are just torrents. I don't bother with any of those websites. I go straight to the torrents. In fact, I downloaded it earlier off one of the torrent sites.
Okay. Yeah. I unfortunately I don't have any torrent software on my computer right now. But anyway, these
Oh,
three options here, and I'm sure one of
well,
these
torrent is good. That's
will
what
work.
I'm currently using. UTorrent is good. That's what I'm using. It
Okay.
seems to work.
Okay.
And I use Pirate Bay or I use rarbg.com.
Hmm.
But okay, so I showed my review, and okay, I'm gonna before we close this poll. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I almost lost track. So tomorrow night is the Howling, everybody, at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Wednesday, you're gonna find me with the wonderful Gorillas Random Thoughts. We're gonna cover 2 more episodes of Gilligan's Island, and then next Monday again we'll be back with our episode 7 of Lost in Space. And to close out the stream, I'm going to show a preview of next week's episode if I don't screw this up this time, like I did last time. So here we go.
All good.
Yeah. Next week's episode is awesome. I really love that one.
I've just got to see Mr. Nobody right now. I've just got to.
I will destroy you.
Get closer!
Launch my attack here.
Hey, look out! Let Dr. Smith have his dirty old
Okay. And that's a preview for next week's episode. So if that looks interesting to you, please try to join us for next week because it is actually fun, and I think you'll have a good time. So once
Yeah.
again, I want to thank everybody in the chat. I really appreciate you guys spending your time with us tonight. And if you enjoyed it, please consider hitting the like button on your way out, and feel free to leave comments anytime you'd like. Like I said, I like criticism, good or bad. Anything that improves the channel, especially other people's opinions. So good night, everybody on the panel. Thank you for spending time with me, and I will see you guys. Hopefully, I'll see some of you guys on Jill's stream tomorrow, and hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Howling.
Yeah.
Gorilla,
I'll
are you
try
going
and
to be there
pop
for the
one.
Howling tomorrow?
I'll try and
I'll
pop
try
one
my
tomorrow
best
night.
to be there.
It all
Okay.
depends. It's like 90 minutes, I guess, that film, and I got to eat and I got to get some sleep before work tomorrow. But hopefully, I got a few hours left, so I should be able to watch it tonight. I'm hoping.
All right, and Gorilla, it's not really gory, so I think you can handle it okay.
It's a werewolf
Right.
film, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
but it's not really gory. You don't get a lot of blood splattering or anything like
So
that.
it's kind of like American Werewolf in London or whatever.
I liked it better than American Werewolf in London. And I'll explain that
Oh.
tomorrow during the stream. When I
Okay.
compare the two.
Well, that
Because
sounds
the,
good
the,
then.
the
Because I
effects
like
were
that
very
other film.
the effects were very similar because they were done by the same people. So I will cover that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So with that, have a wonderful night, everybody. If you're working tomorrow, please drive safe, stay warm, and peace.